morning, good afternoon, good day. This is The Way We Ball. I'm Eric Todd.
And I'm Jacob Mustafa.
That's right. That's right. I'm good. How you doing, sir? We're recording on a Sunday morning.
We are.
We are well into free agency. It is happening.
Yeah.
The season's over. The draft is over. I think we've already had a summer league game.
Yes, we've had several. People are complaining about them being played in Utah and Sacramento because I've read guys' first points weren't scored in Las Vegas, and I didn't know that there was like a sanctity to having your first points scored in Las Vegas.
Right. Everyone, can you please relax? Like
we're into the stupidity of
oh my God, just if you're paying attention to this, you already have a problem.
You have already lost the rope.
You're struggling with other things in your life, most likely. So this week we're gonna try to. So we haven't talked to each other publicly here. We haven't talked to you guys in about a week, and so a lot of things.
I haven't talked to Eric at all. I block his number until the moment that this podcast starts.
The moment. That's right. Absolutely. That's right. That's exactly not what happens. Unfortunately for Jacob. But yeah, so there's so many things. The last time we talked, we were talking about the Giannis trade. We were talking about the draft with our friend Alex. And since then, there have been like 900 more mega trades and free agency.
The league has like completely changed rosters and on like at least several teams. Some of these teams that we're going to read off like the transaction lists of what's happened to them, we basically just like reshuffled the teams.
Right. No, I mean there are a few teams, one in particular that
we're kind of underselling it. This has been kind of the wildest offseason like ever. Like
you think so?
In a play, we always say, "Oh man, everything's going to change. Everything's going to change," and then a few things change. But we've had at least 3 top 25 players change hands, like completely change teams, and at least 2 of them were pretty fucking shocking that they happened.
Free agency itself has been more active, I think, than it has in the last 2 years, for sure.
Yes.
But
also the cap space has been used in trades. Guys are being signed to meaningful extensions. Yeah. Teams are deciding early that they are out on guys. Some of that I want to talk about more broadly when we talk about our first team, because I think the first team we're going to talk about, and you probably, if you listen to anything about basketball, you know the first team we're going to talk about. But they are such a good microcosm for like everything that's happening league wide in response to shifting changes on how we view players based on advanced stats, how the CBA's changed everything, and changed team building, and also just maybe how one fucking moron a year and a half ago might have changed the entire GM's our minds on if they can trade a star early. When you can trade a star, especially a young star.
I'm curious about that. I do want to frame a little bit. So we are what we've chosen to do is not hit every free agency move, is not hit every trade that's happened. You can Google those. What we're going to do is we've just selected a handful of teams, and we're just going to kind of go through the teams themselves and their rosters and who's gone and who's coming in. And in the course of that, we'll hit probably most of the major trades and major.
If you really want us to go over the Colin Gillespie like re-signing, then you need to. I'll read Eric's personal email out at the end of this, and you can send him mail.
That's fine. Yeah, we will discuss that. If you want to discuss what's happening with the Suns, we're prepared.
I don't though. I know what's happening with the Suns, but I do not want to talk about them. Right. Instead, let's talk about our first two teams. But our first team in reality, the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
Holy shit. You know what's so funny is like I was listening to that Bill Simmons podcast the other day, and they kept recounting when they heard about the trade.
Right.
Like it was like the
it's fucking 9/11.
Shooting.
Right. Yeah. Like it's like, yes. I mean, and honestly, that's how monumental it is. Like I was over at your house the other day, and I said this to you. I was just like, I do not understand. Like I do not fucking. And that's what's wild is I didn't listen to the Bill Simmons pod, but what I've listened to. And it just feels
6 other ones. Yeah.
It's like, what? So do you want to go through like
let's just go through what all the things that have happened to Boston and then kind of lay out the trade. out in Boston is Nikola Vucevic, who, they got him last year, and
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown,
Jaylen
no
fucking Brown.
longer a Boston Celtic. And in are Mike Conley, little 1-year deal. Mitchell Robinson of the reigning champion New York Knicks,
Yeah.
their longest
3-year
tenured
deal.
player, by the way, is now a Boston Celtic. Basically, there are no rules anymore because Boston traded Jaylen Brown to Philly. They signed over Mitchell Robinson from the Knicks. You can do whatever you want, guys. There are no there are no restrictions in life.
The trade here, I think the reason for the dumbfounding though really are in
is
the
Paul
actual
George.
details, because it's Jaylen Brown for Paul George. That was where the money was, and then they traded. They got 2 draft picks, 2 first-round picks, and then was there a second? We didn't put this.
I believe they get 2 first-rounders and 2 seconds.
Yeah. So basically, Paul George, who's 36, who's had
missed 25 games last year for a suspension of some kind, and from the previous seasons before that missed much more than 25 games just off of injury, because Paul George has been a very injured superstar in his career.
But more importantly, he's old.
He's no longer a superstar.
Yeah, yes. He's on the he averaged like 18.
He's not on the decline curve. He's on the decline curve has gone down, and now we're at the tail ends.
The discussion around Paul George in the last year. I mean, look, before the last offseason, everyone, and you brought this up to me privately, is everyone had said, hey, Paul George and Embiid are the 2 worst contracts in the league.
Yeah, right? We talked about this endless times last year.
Right.
I think a couple of times on the podcast, but like we wanted to do like a segment on it, like worst contract in the league, but I think everybody does that.
Yeah.
Paul George was probably number 2 or 3 in that list.
Jaylen Brown was in the MVP discussion last year. He had a career year from box score stats, and to me, his efficiency didn't really drop so much.
He was on the All-NBA second team.
Right.
He was in the MVP. He averaged almost 30 points a game.
Yeah. 28.6 or something like that.
Yeah. He had such a good year that whenever he said that it was his favorite season ever, everyone complained about the optics of that, but didn't disagree with, I mean, it was your best
year.
Yeah.
Right.
And he did. And Boston, like a couple other teams we're going to talk about after this, had decided on some level that there was a little bit of sell high in this trade, where they're like, we want to trade him now because we don't think he's going to have this value or this high of a value. And it turns out he didn't have quite as high of a value as we thought he would have. And that's kind of the first note that I've got here is you and I both agree this is a bad trade. And the reason why we agree this is a bad trade on the baseline, regardless of what you think of Jaylen Brown, the player himself, and how he affects your team, is his value was almost certainly not this low in this league. Like what they got back is obviously a low return, like among the lower returns you could ever imagine. In fact, none of us imagined it when the trade actually happened, that he could return this little bit.
To this trade, you would think you would have to attach a first-round pick to Paul George to take his contract.
Yes.
So in a way, they kind of, they've got one.
It's like they only got 1 first rounder for Jaylen Brown.
Yeah,
because they get 2 first rounders in this trade. Yeah,
right. Who to me the other. So I'm with you on on how bad it is, and there has been all this discussion around Jaylen Brown as whatever, like these analytic stats.
I want to, before you go off on that, I have it broken down for a reason.
Okay, great. Let's go.
On the outline like that, because I want to go through each of those reasonings. Yeah. But I do want to talk first before we talk about what is ultimately happening in all these conversations about, holy shit, this trade is like just reckonings on Jaylen Brown league wide.
Yeah.
Like strange arguments that we're all having. And you and I had the other day. Yeah. We were like literally just on the sliding scale of like, well, is he better than this guy? And do we think he can be this much better than people? Right. Like that's what's been happening league wide. But I do think before we ever get to that, whether you think that Jaylen Brown is the 20th best player in the league or the 12th best player in the league or the 49th best player in the league, it is kind of inarguable that the trade that they made was not the best use of their assets. Yes, Jaylen Brown has a giant contract. There are teams that would have found ways to absorb that giant contract around the league, and also had
right?
Yeah, and also had better giant contracts to send back than Paul George.
At the very least, from an age standpoint, And even
Yes.
from a fit standpoint, like there's just so many.
We can argue about that because I do think that Paul George. There are ways that you can argue to me that Paul George is almost a better fit. If you, by the way, that is totally dependent on you believing that Jason Tatum is returning back to A1 number 7, 6th best player in the league status. And he did not. He was great at the back end of last year. He was not that quite yet, which is a kind of risky choice on Brad Stevens' part. I mean, obviously, so much of this is risky, but I just want to say, like you said, Paul George would normally take a pick. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Reckless to me, not even fucking risky, fucking reckless.
Yes. Reckless with what your precious resources are, which are Jason Tatum's prime. Jason Tatum's prime is the resource. That's the thing. I mean, I don't understand why everyone's just okay with this year where it looks like no matter what, Paul George will be worse and produce less than Jaylen Brown would have.
To me, the other thing that is just so shocking, even aside from, hey, that this is a bad return, is that these were your guys. You drafted these two guys. You won a title with these two guys. You went to the
finals before that with these two guys.
Went to the finals with these two guys. These were the pillars. When you stripped away everything last year to save money for your fucking owner, like you and because again, like these pieces that you would put together for this title team were aging, whatever. But when they stripped the team down, they didn't trade. Those were the guys they kept, and Derek White, right? And Pritchard. But it was like,
no, that was the core.
The pillars. These were the guys who had been there for the longest. Who you would assume, you would assume the fans are going to be connected to, but you would assume that the front office would be too, right? That they would have.
Turned out the fans are quite connected to him. The fans are quite upset about this trade.
Brad Stevens coached him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
he coached him and then has built around him his entire career as a GM. Yeah. I think to put a fine point on it, Boston is probably the prickliest team in the league about retiring jerseys because of how many jerseys they already have retired. They will retire this man's jersey. Like Jaylen Brown will have his jersey retired in Boston whenever he whenever he's done with this league. Yeah. That's why it's kind of insane. They're shipping their guy out,
and he's
their likely Hall of Famer out.
He's in his prime. It's not
29 years old.
Like he's at the end of the prime. He's not willing to sign a new contract. He's also under contract for 4 years. But Paul George is under contract for 3. Sorry,
flip that 3 and 2.
3 and 2. So So you're saving 1 year on the money. But that's 2 years. That's 3 seasons down the line. Like
that is in our next discussion. We will have that. So overall, yes, we're in agreement. This is a bad trade. This was a weird time. So now let's get to our reckoning, because let's just talk about it ourselves. What do we think? Why we know why the reasons why people say they made this deal, and so that's why I wanted to kind of go through each of these individually, and I want to go through the first one because you had the strongest feelings on this one.
Okay, so this is what you mean. These are the things that people are saying.
These are the reasons I think people are saying that Jaylen Brown got traded in this manner. And I would say they are as defensible. They are less defensible from the first to the last. I think the last one is probably the most defensible. The first one is the one that I'm going to let Eric dance on here. So a lot of people are saying that Jaylen Brown's advanced stats just show that he is a much lesser player than his general media and fan status would state. Generally, there's to give an example that they gave on the Simmons podcast yesterday, The Ringer had him ranked like the 14th best player in the league at the end of the year. And Data Ballers, EPM, league-wide rankings from last year had him 87th.
Yeah.
So there is a very, very large gap between how most people who base their analysis on advanced stats.
There's some change, right? Like you and I were going over this. I haven't done. I meant to actually do my list because you felt like you had him as like the 25th best player in the league.
Yeah, I would say I have him in the somewhere between like 22 to 30 is where I would place him. You could shift guys around, but yeah.
And I would have him higher than that. 14, just, again, eyeballing it without actually going through individual players. 14 to 20 to me feels
Sounds
right.
about right to you.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, again, this is, I don't want to say necessarily splitting hairs, but this is right. Like no one is saying that he's better than the top three guys in the league, right?
Yeah.
No one is saying that he's worse than like the top 30 or well some of these analytics folks are right, but what I'm saying is
that's what this is about, man.
Yeah,
is some of these just to,
but it just seems
because
like
you and I
nonsense.
have been you and I have been so entrenched in it. So I want to just, to anybody listening who doesn't know, there have been multiple GM or anonymous GM reports out about
anonymous
how
GM
exactly, which is like the most cowardly bullshit you can do. Like put zero of your name to something, but
it's honestly what so much of sports journalism has become, especially around basketball, but really in general, is this sensationalism of can we do the hot take? Can we say the thing that is going to get reposted the most on social media? And it's not, I don't know that that's like.
So among those things that got reposted the most, Bobby Marks was reported that a team executive told him that Jaylen Brown would be the 7th best player on their team, not in the league, on their team. And then after he was traded, another actual team president or GM told, I'm trying to remember, I think it was Brian Windhorst, that they did not view him as a top 50 player. So basically, when I say reckoning, I mean we have huge shifts between what the viewer thinks and the media thinks of this guy and what the league clearly on some level thinks of this guy, because he did bring back this return. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's not like you and I think Brad Stevens called nobody. Like, my guess is he did not do the Nico Harrison thing here and just talk to Rob Pelinka on one side of the phone and pretend like the rest of the league didn't exist. Like, he surveyed the league. So this is something that's seen around our league wide. Now, Eric, how do you think that this view of Jaylen Brown, how fair do you think this view of Jaylen Brown is?
So I have a lot of thoughts and a couple. So first of all, I want to touch the media part of it, right? Because I do think we are talking about, look, this is entertainment media, right? Like this is, and in entertainment media, hell, we see this. There was a period a while back, like in the blog era, where you had these sort of nasty, and even prior to that, I mean, like think about Princess Diana and the paparazzi. Like the way that media treats celebrities sometimes can be very adversarial. The media the exact media that covers those celebrities,
right?
Who cover those celebrities can be adversarial, can be very hostile to, and again, we've talked about this a ton with John Morant. I think we've just seen it a lot, and I think this can, but that media is so often the lens through which fans and people are able to talk about and think about the thing, right? The entertainment thing, right? And the human beings doing the entertainment thing. So I feel like there's a lot of there's incentive from some of the media here to stir the pot, to say the fucking crazy thing, to say the 87th best player, to say the 50th best player. So that's my first thought, is that I think some of this there's incentive here from these people who are trying to get, reposts and retweets and whatever the fuck.
Sure.
Right. Like there's real incentive there. So that's one. The other thing from an analytics standpoint, and this is from a math standpoint, I studied computational neuroscience. I'm an electrical engineer. Math is a thing that I've done a lot of, and advanced math is a thing that I've done a lot of recently. And this is the other part of this, is everybody who's quoting all of these advanced stats, not a one of these people, I think, can tell you what the formula is that gets us to those advanced stats, right? Like we are just depending on like all of these, and especially these we love an advanced stat that will just wrap everything together, right? Like it used to be PER, the one, right? It's now we've got all RAPM, we've got box plus my, like all of these,
we're jealous of baseball and war. Like there's a clear like jealousy for like this stat that kind of genuinely kind of encapsulates a value of a player to a team.
And that's to me the difference. And I think again the analytics movement was born out of the baseball analytics movement.
Shout out Bill James.
Right. Damn
Yeah.
right. Like, but the basketball analytics movement was born out of that. But
Yeah.
I think the thing that we've never had in basketball are ways to quantify exactly what's happening. In baseball, we talk about this a lot, where it's like, hey, there are distinct actions that happen, right? There's a distinct, there's a pitch, there's so many more measurable things, but like an individual sport kind of wrapped into a team sport,
Yeah.
right?
To age myself a little bit, baseball used to have those. Do you remember the arcade game where like you would ping the ball and then like you would have individual guys do something on the team, and like you could play it like foosball essentially, because baseball is so separate. Each of these characters are so separate that you can do that, as opposed to a version of a basketball game like that could not exist, because they would have to
Couldn't.
pass the ball to each other and
Right.
do things that
Like
led to like the success of the sport.
on when you play double dribble, aging myself,
Yeah.
like none of the players had individual stats. None of them had
Yeah.
individual and you pass the ball around and they all like were
Yeah.
a fucking team working together, and there's
Because
so much that
basketball is a much more naturally team sport. I
right
mean, more than
it's
almost any of the major sports,
it's a
I
sport
would
that
say.
flows. But we want statistics. We want, and we love the binary of the win and loss as definitive in the first place, but we want to dig in. We understand that that's not completely definitive, right? Especially in talking about players and breaking down a team of 12 people to, oh, which one of these people are contributing most to that
I
win and
mean, you
loss.
and I spit out teams' advanced stats on here all the time. Like
We
we
do.
we
Yeah.
we clearly think that these are useful tools as well. It's just, I think, whenever they become the rubric by which you are completely
So
measuring players,
and
and
I want to speak to that in detail real quick. So
yeah,
so exactly. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But the exactly that point. So forever we had box score stats, right? We have
yeah,
like the thing that people looked at was like, man, box score barely captures defense. So
yeah.
how do you capture defense? How do you capture some of these other things that are happening? I mean, there was the Shane Battier article, the No Stats All Star, right? Like there's clearly a gap in the box score stats, in what we consider value, right? And again,
Yeah.
I think some of these advanced stats try to fill that in. Almost exclusively, they use plus minus as the core stat for all of these, the value over replacement player, RAPM, so many of these stats that
And
we're
raw
talking
plus
about.
minus is simply how well did the team do while you were on the
Right.
floor?
It's a
Did the team?
differential, but more importantly, it's a differential of on versus off. So
Yeah.
not only are you contributing to the team, so to have a good, like to have a great plus minus, and we've seen it with Jokic forever, right?
I knew you were gonna say it.
Like
Yeah.
no, well, not only and Curry,
It
right?
doesn't help that he's just great. It's also that his backup is awful.
Right. Like it exactly. You not only have to help your team win, but when you're off the floor, when you sit, your team has to be worse. It's a fucking differential, right?
And
It's it's a plus and a fucking minus, right?
historically, players on good teams, or teams specifically with a lot of depth, often are hurt by a lot of these plus minus stats.
And Boston has had more. I mean, this was also the knock on them from people whatever around the league saying Jaylen and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum aren't that great because what they have is this great ensemble around them. What they built was a great fucking team around them, and with a great coach.
Right here, this is what I say all the time. This is why
Right,
I say
right,
that.
exactly. So that has been the argument, but what I'm saying is it feels like we've gone so far though. Like that doesn't mean it doesn't, because they have great players on the team.
Yeah.
Like so Jaylen Brown is now not only okay, again, if we think of him just in general as the 14th to the 30th best player, right?
Sure.
Just in a basic evaluation standpoint,
Mhm.
all everyone who's saying he's the 50th best player, he's the 87th best player, he's the 7th best player on his team, it's all based on these cumulative, and I really do think these plus minus driven stats, and that's the final thing I just want to say is that when you do any kind of statistics, when you do any kind of science, like, it is so dependent on your data collection. It is so dependent. You can do advanced analysis, but if your initial data source or your initial experiment that you run is not well put together, what you have is garbage at the end. What you have is nothing that's reliable, or something that maybe has some conclusions, but it's like, but people are going to poke a million holes in.
You put in junk, you're going to get out junk.
Right, exactly. Garbage in, garbage out. That's just the way that math works, right? Yeah. So when you and plus minus is inherently a very, very noisy stat. Like, there's just no other way around it. And this is a perfect example of why, but there's a million reasons why, right? Team chemistry, playing against the backups. You know, if you're a bench player, you're playing against other bench players, probably, right? Like, there's just a lot of things that aren't being accounted for in these models. And anyway, so to me, that's where this discussion I find really frustrating.
Well, and it's why I wanted to talk about it first, is because while I would say it's the bludgeon that has been used most against Jaylen Brown since he's gotten traded, as basically as we all try and like post hoc eval what the fuck just happened. Like, so many people are coming up with this is like, you know what? The stats have always said that he wasn't that good, so maybe that's just what's happening. I think that it's kind of it's a weaker argument than we have allowed be the basis of these kinds of trades in the past. Like, I want to know, my favorite player in the league, Luka Doncic, always measures out a little bit worse than you would imagine, I think, on a lot of these stats. And I find myself at the end of every year kind of having to argue, but what are we ended up, or like, why are we completely skipping over, this reason why, Luka's stats are going to look this much worse and why Shai's would look better in this situation. And so I'm very happy for us to put this as the number one argument, put a knife in this one as probably the worst of these arguments for why Jaylen Brown needed to be traded. The next one I think has a little more validity, but still kind of falls apart. And that's just Jaylen Brown's contract situation. And I'll kind of lay that out. So the reason why we think this trade in specific is a little wild is if your reasoning for trading Jaylen Brown is that he gets paid too much, he gets paid like
you're trying to save money, you're trying to blow up the team.
You're trying to save money in the long term. You're trying to like have more flexibility and break up usually teams don't want to have multiple contracts that take up at least 30% of their cap. And that is the situation they found themselves in before they made this trade. Guess what? Also the situation they find themselves in. Still the situation they're in right now. Because Paul George while Jaylen Brown makes $57 million this year and then 60 the next year and then 62 or something the year after that, Paul George makes $54 million this year and then has a player option after that for 57. So he's still eating up this massive part of the cap. The argument against why Jaylen Brown's contract situation was different than Paul George's was simply that Paul George and Jaylen Brown are both extension eligible as of this year with how many years I think Paul George has been extension eligible since last year, and he will actually run out of that extension eligibility by the beginning of this year. But they are both eligible for these supermax basically extensions, 35% of the cap, 2 more years to add on to the end of their current existing contract. So for Jaylen Brown, that would mean that his 3 years would turn into 5 years. And for Paul George, it would mean that his 2 years remaining would turn into 4 years. So with Paul George, no one's questioning whether, and they would get 35% of the cap. So that's probably a $70 million deal each year. No one's worried that Paul George is going to get this extension. Jaylen Brown, as the homegrown talent in Boston, who has won the Finals MVP and been super successful, he has very good reason to believe that he can demand the absolute largest extension that is available, which is what he is available for, or he is our extension eligible for right now. Meaning, right now, had he still been on the team, Boston would have to kind of make the decision of, are we willing to let our really great player play out this contract and not get an extension and maybe risk pissing him off, or are we going to make a deal for him before so that we don't have to have this financial cliff that we have to make that decision of? Okay. Let's say that that's true. And it is true on some level. And they did buy themselves, I guess, a year here of extra year or away from Paul George's contract. They absolutely did
they
that.
saved 1 year of this max money.
And they also staved off this extension discussion because this will now be Philadelphia's problem. Let's just why'd they have to do it right now? Like why'd they have to do it right now? Yeah. Why didn't they wait until the middle of this season or next year? Whenever they make this deal, whenever his value was maybe higher, or other teams around the league were more desperate for them as they are for him, as they always are for stars in the middle of a season. Why the fuck did they do this trade right now? What was this fire sale? That's kind of why I think this argument kind of falls apart is yes, all of those financial realities are real. Yes, you might want that. You might want to break up your team and get that flexibility. You didn't break up your team and get that flexibility right now. You still have Paul George on a giant contract. Yeah. And even if you're staving off that $70 million deal or $70 million a year deal, you could have staved that off for another 6 months or another 3 months or another 12 months. Like you had so much more time than to rush yourself into what is clearly one of the worst returns on this player that you possibly could have gotten. And that gets me. Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, what do you think of the financial implications of this? Like, do you mostly agree with like what I'm saying about like, yes, these are real thoughts, but they don't explain your rationale here.
Well, firstly, I think that in general, teams are or have been kind of sort of ridiculous in the way that they deal with financials, right? Like it's like the teams in general have been like, okay, our best player on the team is deserving of a max contract, whether that best player is the 26th best player in the league or the first best player in the league.
Right.
And that those things are meaningful. If you're trying to go against a team with the first best player in the league, like, why are you not scaling that contract back so you can sign more
like talent to make up for the differential between your players? Difference,
right? Like, and this is where I think in Houston, we're frustrated with Rafael Stone, but I think this is one of the big things that I think he's done really well is just not give everybody the max. It's like, hey, cool, you're
it's like
our
the only
thing
he's been really good at as GM. Yes.
Anyway, so
successfully cheap. I agree. In the right way that a GM should be cheap.
But all of this, and so the next thing that you have on here is just talking about the tension between them. But to me, all of this. Now, if you want to get into that, we can. I
think that's the reasoning that makes the most sense. I think that's the only reasoning that makes sense. That like
I'm with you. The financial thing, it's not enough savings to make sense. You're not under. You don't have to sign him to that fucking extension. No. And guess what? Like, for all understanding publicly of this, he hasn't asked for a trade, right? So the thing about
is also what I want to get into. That's also what I want to get into after this.
Trade.
I think there's more bluster on Jaylen Brown's side about that than is true. I think Jaylen Brown was distinctly in conversations with Brad Stevens about wanting, like, hey, I'm not going to ask for a trade here, but if you are going to deal me, I want you to know what I think about this because I am, I've won a Finals MVP here. I am a meaningful player in your history. Do not just shit my ass off to fucking New Orleans, which he clearly ixnayed a deal on because he was
okay. I read. Oh, he confirmed that.
What you got? No. The reports are that he had done that. The reports.
Yeah, I've been reading all these reports and I've got questions because all of these are fucking anonymous. They're like this. Also, the team has released so much of this shit after the fact. It feels like for optics themselves.
I mean, the team is definitely doing like, or what you're calling,
like fucking backflips to try to like make him look bad and make the situation look bad for him.
It feels just like the Luka trade all over again. And immediately after he gets traded, we're hearing about his drinking problems.
And I'm going to trust the player over some fucking vague, like, oh, somebody said whatever.
And I'm not talking about, hey, Jaylen Brown has the disease of thinking he's the smartest guy in the room or anything like that. What I'm talking about is
he's pretty smart. I like Jaylen Brown.
He's smart enough. He's smarter than most of the fucking guys. And what he said about the league was very accurate. He's like, not my fault. The bar is so low. Essentially, is what Jaylen Brown said about being the smartest guy in the room. I'm with you on that one, JB.
I was like, fuck yes.
Yeah. But
I also think he's likable. Like I've always,
I think there are things about him I like. There are things about him I don't like. There are definitely things I like about Jaylen Brown, and I like him. I definitely think there's been heavy racism as encoded in all of the discussions of him post the trade. everybody acting like he's an uppity, you know what. And like, just seriously, it's just how everyone's fucking talked about him who wants to shit on him. And I think that that's obviously disgusting.
I also think you got a lot of Knicks fans in fucking Twitter.
I also think that, but I also think it has been clear for some time that among the like partnerships in the league, Browns and Tatum's has not been the cleanest, most natural. They are not best friends. For guys who have played together for 10 years, they clearly don't have the same relationship that like Steph and Clay have, or Steph and Draymond have, or AD and LeBron had. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have as close of a relationship. And I read reports that were sourced to people who I trust saying that Jason Tatum was genuinely frustrated with those reports that came out after the season. Not even reports, with Jaylen Brown going on fucking Twitch and saying this was his favorite year, and that he thought that this was a really great team, and he thought that he didn't understand why people didn't like this team as much as they liked their previous years. And I think Jason Tatum, with good reason, might go, man, fuck this. I'm the guy here. Don't, just because I was out for a year doesn't mean that you get to fucking claim the, the stats. And also, are we due to have like an actual, Shaq Kobe dick measuring contest over the next year when we're both back and healthy fighting for the ball? And it also seems like Jaylen Brown might have seen the same thing coming and thought that he wanted a way out himself. And that's why he was saying some of these things in public. I think that that's the one that I have to leave as a possibility, simply because we never know. Like, we really don't ever know what the personal dynamics of players are that make GMs make decisions we think are unreasonable, are completely rash. It's like, well, if you knew that this was not going to work in 3 months and you just outright knew that, then that is different. And that is a variable that we can't consider. And that's kind of all I mean to say is, it's the only explanation that makes any fucking sense, is that things had genuinely gone so bad.
And of note, like, the thing that we really didn't hit on here is kind of the timeline, right? Like, the timeline, the media timeline here was Jaylen Brown is floated in potential Giannis trade.
Yes.
The Milwaukee chooses Miami's package over Boston's with Jaylen Brown. And then at that point, it's like, oh, Jaylen Brown is on the chopping block. Everybody's talking about it. And so, like, the thought, it felt like, just from a media standpoint, from kind of like an optics way sort of external standpoint, was, oh, well, they floated him a trade. So now I heard the toothpaste is out of the tube.
Yeah,
they have to trade him now. Yeah. They talked about it. He was in trade, and it's like, do you? Like, oh, is that what? This motherfucker makes $50 million. Suck it up, dude. Like, Giannis is, like, if we're talking about, oh, he's the 20th best player, there's no argument that Giannis is not better than him.
Yes.
Right? There's no, and he would have been a better fit on that team. Like, to me, you
were putting trade talks for like one of the best players in the league. It's not that insulting.
The idea of, like, the front office made Jaylen Brown mad by putting him in trade rumors, and now they can't go back to training camp together, and it's going to be a fucking shit show.
But what if Tatum didn't want him there? That's kind of what that's where I go.
That's an interesting take, and that's, to me, I hadn't thought of the Tatum angle. I had thought of the Mazzulla angle, though. And that's something you don't have here, and that I wondered, because Mazzulla's a genuine fucking unhinged human being, right? So, like, if he just, like, if all of a sudden Mazzulla is watching what Jaylen Brown's saying, is like, this motherfucker can't, fuck him. Oh, and as much as Jaylen Brown was amazing last year, Joe Mazzulla was the MVP of that team, right? Obviously. Joe Mazzulla was the one who kept that team. And so if you have a rift here, if you're Brad Stevens and your coach, who really has proven himself to be one of, if not the best coaches in the league, right? Yeah. Probably should have won Coach of the Year. He did win Coach of the Year.
He did.
Yeah,
he's the reigning Coach of the Year.
Yeah, reigning fucking Coach of the Year. Put together like a number 2 seed from fucking paper clips and like scrape buttons and shit. You know what I mean?
Macaroni.
Like, whatever, right? Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, paper mache this shit together. Like, like that's where
why we think Joe Mazzulla is so into crafts.
Right. I don't know. And why are crafts like being disparaged? Crafts are amazing. I love crafts.
I just think Joe Mazzulla is an insane person, and there's something about him that would be very averse to crafts.
Right.
Anyway,
maybe
but I'm with you. Mazzulla, Stevens, and Tatum are where I look at the what you call it,
if
the actual rubber meeting the road here, and I'm like,
it's like, yeah.
I don't know. Like, maybe those guys are just done with him. Maybe they don't give a shit about what Data Ballers fucking EPM stats say. Yeah. They're just like, no, I want to reshift and Tatum, Mazzulla, and Stevens are probably like the closest thing to a lockstep star coach GM connection in the league that exists past the like Harden, Morey, D'Antoni old days of like these guys seem like they're completely in alignment.
Still, to me, like reasoning, okay, maybe that's some sound reasoning that is just behind the scenes that we don't know.
Still feels like they didn't have to do it right now.
Right.
Still feels like every choice comes back to why they do it right now.
Even if you're like, we can't go into training camp with this guy. Okay. Training camp's in fucking September, bro. It's like it's July. Exactly. It's barely July.
James Harden, after having said he never would play for a team that Daryl Morey fucking GM'd again, into like game 2 of the season before they dealt him to the Clippers because they waited until they got a deal that made any fucking sense.
Right. Yeah.
This is not a deal that makes any sense.
That was the Mazzulla angle to me. That's why I was like, Mazzulla's a fucking psycho. He might just be like, get this man off my team right now. Like, Mazzulla's do not wait.
Psychopath. Mazzulla may genuinely think Hugo Gonzalez is a better player than him.
We've done this. We've done this more than justice.
Yeah. So, real quickly to close out our Boston segment, I just want to say about the team that actually is there now. Now there is a team that exists, and it features Mitchell Robinson as their maybe starting center, maybe backup center, but definite probably like top 5 guy on the team.
Yeah.
Paul George is probably now your starting 3 or 4. And they also signed Mike Conley as their backup point guard, which fits into the Mazzulla Ball, our mindset of we've got enough ball handlers in our wings and we've got enough ball handlers elsewhere that what we really want is a dead eye shooter at our point guard, which they've basically made sure that all of their ball handling ones, the smallest guys on the floor, are always dead eye shooters. It's an interesting team. There's a chance they don't make the play, or there's a chance they're in the play-in or don't make the playoffs though, because the East got a lot better this year, man. This whole summer has been.
Tatum is still coming off of that Achilles, right? Like we still haven't seen him at full strength.
We haven't seen him play 50 or 60 games at his best.
My problem with this is I like Mitchell Robinson in a vacuum, but he's been really injury prone, right? And so is Paul George. So these guys that you're bringing in,
and Jason
Mike
Tatum
Conley is old as fuck. Like
this is a rickety.
I love
team,
Mike Conley. Yeah,
unless you really, really, really love Shireman and Hugo Gonzalez. Like this is a really rickety team. Unless that's what
I really liked Keita last year, but again he seemed to.
And they re-signed Keita. Keita comes back on a really good deal, 4 years. What is it? I got it here. 4 years, 56 million. They got him until he's 31.
That's great. That's good.
No, but I love the team, but they did just make themselves a bit worse
I don't love the team. I don't.
In a conference, you can't.
I think last year I think what happened. This is another thing to me is like last year you caught lightning in a bottle and some of these guys like Shireman.
But did they catch lightning in a bottle last year, or is fucking Mazzulla the offensive, what you would call it, Eric Spoelstra, and they're just gonna.
How good are these fucking guys really though? Because in the playoffs, what happened is they fell apart because they actually didn't have the talent.
Yeah,
like because this shit was.
Well, so what is? But that's what I'm trying to say is like they're probably good enough to do what they did last year again. I do think that they're good enough. They're also not so good that bringing back Tatum now makes me go, well, they're definitely going to be better than the Heat, and they're definitely going to be better than the Pistons, and they're definitely going to be better than, all the Indiana and all of these teams that are just floating right back to the top. Because that's the thing is last year was a fucking break year for the East. You got off. There was no Indiana. Some of these teams were recovering from injury. Now you've got
Orlando had a terrible year.
Yeah, Orlando had a terrible year. Now you've got monsters up and down the conference, and we're about to talk about one of them in Toronto. They've built There's too many contenders to play around with.
Yeah.
And you just maybe put a year of Jason Tatum's prime on the fucking plate as, maybe this is just a sacrifice. That to me is the real riskiness of this deal and the real riskiness of any of this decision making. All right, let's move to the team that Jaylen Brown's actually going to play for next year, the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah.
I
love it. I fucking love it. I
think this is a good read on where Eric and I both
move.
are on Jaylen Brown, because he is so low on the Celtics, and I'm like, probably okay. And you're apparently really high on the Sixers, and I feel ways about the Sixers. Go ahead. Go through the transactions and what you're thinking.
Right. So Paul George is out. Andre Drummond's gone. Kelly Oubre's gone. Quentin Grimes is gone to the Lakers. Jaylen Brown is in. They signed Dean Wade for some reason. They signed Anthony
Probably going to
Simons.
start for them.
Yeah. Okay. They signed Porty from the Knicks. They signed Caleb Love and Ryan Rupert. I don't know who those guys are. But,
pretty funny that they got is Ryan Rupert. Pretty funny that they got Anthony Simons whenever the Celtics fans have all been like pining for him after this last year. It's like they really did take their lunch.
Looking at this, so your thoughts, we talked about this a little bit. Your thoughts were that you feel like it might be a little bit of too many cooks. It might be a little bit of like we're leaning even further into this guard heavy rotation. I don't know. I think Jaylen Brown can really functionally play the 3. I think he can guard the 3. I think they need.
I was thinking he can play the 4. I think Jaylen Brown can play all kinds of positions on this team.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And I think Edgecombe can play up. I think you can play all 3 of those guys and Maxey and him together. I think that's awesome. Now, like I look, their ceiling is still how many games Joel Embiid plays, what he looks like. The Anthony Simons signing is a little head scratchy, but also, hey, look, some more scoring is great. The worry still though is their defense, and it's like, hey, you let Drummond go, you didn't really replace him. Grimes is a good defender, and Kelly Oubre were really good.
You remember that old classic like YouTube video of the girl making the like cocktail? It's like a Manhattan or something, and then she just was like, you got to put a little whiskey in, and she goes. And she's like, and you need a little vermouth. Shh. That's how I feel about you saying you can always use scoring. Yeah, you're right. You can always use scoring. And why not more scoring? And why not more scoring? And why not more scoring? Dude, the Philadelphia 76ers remind me of like a fucking Isaiah Thomas run Knicks team in the late 2000s. But like, except for obviously a way better version of that. I think as much as I shit on Jaylen Brown's probably to me like the 22nd to 30th best player in the league. I think Tyrese Maxey's just above him. I think Joel Embiid at his best is better than any of these guys. Yeah. I think that VJ Edgecombe is a future stud. I genuinely am very high on VJ Edgecombe. I am so high on VJ Edgecombe. I'd love for him to touch the fucking ball this year, and I don't think he will. And that's to me the cost of this trade to Philadelphia is the Sixers were not good enough before this trade to win the title next year. And like you just said, their cap is how good is Joel Embiid. And my answer to that is not good enough to get you out of the second round because he wasn't this year and he's a year older next year. And so that's what I don't love about this is it kind of just, it makes that extension argument that the Celtics were getting to avoid become Philadelphia's problem. And more importantly, if they don't, and they didn't give up so much to do it. So it's like, okay, you gave up 2 first rounders to get a bite at being great this year. Why not? I get that. But the cost here is really like, and you heard Alex months ago was on our podcast talking about, he was telling me like he didn't think Kevin Durant was a good choice for this team. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Kevin Durant is easily the best player on this team, 13th best player on the team. I can hate him all I want, but he's the guy who needs the ball in his hands. And what Alex said was, yeah, but he is obviously taking touches from Reed and Amen. And every time that they can just rely on that guy to pound, tween, as many times as he needs to get to his shot, that's a time that VJ Edgecombe didn't fucking process an NBA defense coming at him and figure out how he could attack it and become a better player. And we might be putting that growth on hold. We might be putting that growth on hold for a long time if you actually do extend Jaylen Brown here. That's to me the actual cost of this. He's just not the perfect fit. Maxey is a pound the ball guy. He's not the most pound the ball guy, but he is.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid is maybe the most pound the ball guy in the fucking league, and Jaylen Brown is too. And so you got three guys who are going to slow down possessions. And yes, Maxey's a good off-ball shooter. Embiid can be a good off-ball shooter. All three of them can be. And that's why you look at it and you don't go, oh, this is broken at the start. No, it could work, but it's not the natural feel fit that I would have loved. And I almost now I'm going to sound crazy. Now I'm going to sound like fucking everybody else. I almost like the fit of Paul George there better because he was never going to do this because he would have let VJ Edgecombe figure himself out on this team. And it looked like Embiid was even doing that last year, making a point to go, you know what, this is Maxey and Edgecombe's team. I want to let them figure this out. And then I'll come in and be huge and dominate teams that don't have a center like Boston, whenever I need to. I just look at it now and I'm like, yeah, they could be great. And they're definitely in this morass of the top of the East that's right behind New York and going, maybe they've got a shot at taking them down. But this isn't the natural fit that I would have loved for them to have stolen a star from another team. It feels like it kind of compounds some of the problems I already saw on the team.
So I'm only kind of with you because to me, it's Edgecombe is a second-year guy. He was a rookie last year. And he had a lot of promise, but he also has a lot of off-ball promise. He has the guy can do just about everything. And to me, like his learning and his learning to play off the ball and learning to be a spot up shooter and play with other guys who are ball dominant only to me later helps him. You know, like when he's ready, really, because I also just don't think he's really ready to be like your number one lead guard on the ball guy. And I think he's still going to get a ton of shots. He's still going to play a ton.
Well, and they've just got all of their money leaned up into these guys anyway. It's where it's like, well, yes, Edgecombe probably deserves the ball a lot, but you're right in the sense of like, it doesn't matter, man. We've already got our money tied up in these guys. We're going to play these guys. And so he needs to figure out this role because no matter what, this is the role he's going to sort of have.
What I really don't like about this and looking at this, and I think that I hadn't seen the full picture of what else they did. I fucking hate everything else they did. I love that they got Jaylen Brown for free. I think he'll fit great. But this team was already, I mean, look, we had them dead in the water last year and they went to the second round. But why? Because of Embiid. And regardless of Paul George, that was obviously a bad contract, whatever. But Embiid went from the about to be MVP to this giant contract for a guy that like can't stay on the floor, that he's like, that he looks absolutely injured. And when you're taking up that much of the cap with him, I just don't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just think they're dead.
I don't hate the Dean Wade signing. I think you got Dean Wade.
I don't like Dean Wade. I
know you don't. I know you don't.
I don't think he's the defender that people think he is. I think he's kind of strong, but I don't think he can block shots. I don't think his perimeter defense is that good. I think he's too much of what people used to complain about, like a tweener guy.
He's all those things.
And I don't trust his shot. So like.
His shot is not the most consistent thing in the world. What I will say, what I like about Wade here, just real quickly, that I didn't like in Cleveland. Cleveland is like the king of, we've got a bunch of ball dominant guys, but all these guys are a little scared to have the ball at the end of the possession. Like every single one of these guys is like Evan Mobley. Yeah, you've got a bunch of guys who could score, but Mobley and even Mitchell and Harden are like, they will give you a grenade all of the time.
Like, all of Wade's shots were fucking grenades.
Yeah, and so Wade is like always getting the ball, and it's like, okay, wait, I have to make the decision here. It's like, you make the decision, Dean Wade. And on Philly, he really will. He'll have to be like, please.
Yeah.
Can I get the ball sometimes?
My problem is that what they really need to fix is their defense. And I don't think he's there to kind of fix their defense. And I'm just like, he doesn't do that. Really?
No, they replaced Paul George, who was their best defender last year, with like Jaylen Brown, who is now their best defender.
Maybe Dean Wade can turn into like a Rui Hachimura, where he can kind of do a little bit of everything if his shot ever comes around. You know what I mean?
Rui shoots like 42%.
That's what I'm saying. This motherfucker doesn't.
Playoffs. I'm sorry,
but I'm just saying, like a guy who can guard multiple positions.
I knew exactly what you meant. I don't disagree. I don't hate, honestly.
That's an if, but he's not that. So it's like I like
everything else they signed.
Rui's
I like
available.
Dean Wade.
Sign that motherfucker.
I like Dean Wade because he's the only guy they signed who doesn't want to put the fucking ball through his legs 45 fucking thousand times in a row. Every other guy they signed is good, but like even the young guys who I like.
I don't
like
understand
Caleb
the
Love.
Simons signing. Like
I like Ryan
Simons.
I like that they took these floaters, and I also like that they took another backup center from New York, in Huckporty, making it so that Diawara and now they basically flipped backup bigs because now Andre Drummond's a Nick. I don't hate all of these other signings. I just don't get why they made all of these signings in one offseason. It's a weird one. They clearly, it's so funny. Daryl Morey leaves the building and they immediately get like 10 guys who they are just like, fuck it. I'm so tired of all these like no stats all-stars. I want stats.
Yeah.
Give me stats.
Yeah.
And each of these guys has stats. That's what I'll tell you. Look, man, Philly looks solid. I don't know what I think about their future. I will.
Yeah.
Whenever we talk, we will have this conversation one more time as we talk about the Jaylen Brown extension. It is still a terrifyingly interesting thing that is floating around the league because now this decision is our Philadelphia's to make. How much do you want to invest in this guy? How much can you invest in 3 players because they're already paying the shit out of Maxey and Embiid?
I just think when this falls in your lap like that, for that, like the chance to get
gotta
off
take
of
it.
fucking
Gotta take
Paul
it.
George's deal and get in a talent like Jaylen Brown, like you do it.
Gotta
like,
take it.
The fit, and I'm with you. Maybe there's fit things. I think there's fit concerns with the other players they signed, but it's like, hey, you fucking do that. Anyway, let's move on.
Yes. Let's talk about a wholly different team, a team that was not involved in the Jaylen Brown trade at all. We were talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Another trade. Another big trade that was prior to this one. The biggest trade.
They might have shifted more on their team than somehow the last 2 teams we talked about.
Yeah.
Out in Minnesota is Naz Reid in the LaMelo Ball trade. Julius Randle in a salary dump that predated the LaMelo Ball trade that we talked about on the last podcast. We had no fucking idea was leading into this nonsense. Mike Conley obviously went to Boston, as we already discussed. Kyle Anderson, I believe, I have to remember where he signed, but he's out. Dante DiVincenzo is obviously out since last year's first round series. He is probably out for the entire year.
Yeah, with the Achilles.
And then we have all these swaps they sent out for LaMelo Ball. 3 swaps to the Charlotte Hornets, the 2028, 2029, and 2030 first round swaps. Guess what? Swaps only matter if your team is actually worse than the other team. I hope that works out for Charlotte or Don. I don't give a shit. And a first round unprotected, a 2033 first rounder of Minnesota actually went out to Charlotte. Also, they lost their lead assistant, Mike Norrie. He is now the coach of the Portland Trailblazers on the cheapest contract that any coach has ever played for in NBA or in recent NBA history. It's really weird. The owner of the Portland Trailblazers is really cheap. No weird moral failings on that team. Anyway.
Nothing. Also, how was LaMelo traded for more than Jaylen Brown?
Not more, a lot more. I would say. I would say he was traded for a lot more. Naz Reid is
because of Naz Reid, I think. Yeah. But I also am in the camp of these swaps being nothing because I really don't think there'll be anything.
Yeah, because Minnesota's going to be better. There's a good chance Minnesota's going to be better this entire time, and it won't. And there's nothing that Charlotte gets out of that.
I mean,
so what did Minnesota bring in? They brought in, as we've discussed, LaMelo Ball. The number 3 pick in the same draft that their number 1 pick, Anthony Edwards, was drafted in. They are the 2 stars from that draft. It's really weird that they're on the same team 5 years or 6 years into their career.
I fucking love it.
And then they also did a bunch of other weird shit. They got Josh Green in that trade. Ayo Dosunmu, who they traded for at the deadline, they signed to a massive new deal to be their backup point guard now that we know that LaMelo Ball is their starter.
I would suspect they're going to play him at the 2. I think he can play at the 2.
I think in some end of games lineups, absolutely they're going to do that. But I do think at the starts of games, I think Ayo's going to come off the bench. And then we get to the really interesting question. Minnesota's probably not done. Eric mentioned him a couple times in this podcast. Rui Hachimura is probably going to be the net starting power forward of your Minnesota Timberwolves. If it isn't LeBron James, who is apparently Minnesota is among the last 6 teams that he is choosing between. As of Sunday, 11:57, he hasn't signed anywhere, and we don't know where the fuck he's going. He's probably not going to Golden State.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we know about the 6 teams that are looking through. So Minnesota just fucking shook everything up. Are they good enough? Is what they did enough? And you know what I mean by enough? I mean it in 2 ways. Is it enough to beat OKC and San Antonio, and is it enough to keep Ant? Whenever whenever 2 years from now, if they haven't won a title.
I love this fit. I love this fit from a personality standpoint. I think both these guys are fucking unhinged, and I think they will they will play well together. I also think Minnesota has a great system and a good coach.
Yeah.
And I think that LaMelo going to a team in which he is clearly not the best player, and in a system in which, so I said this to you when this happened, to me, Anthony Edwards, the big thing that I thought about him, right, when he was drafted in his first couple of years, is I was like, that guy's never really going to be a star because his decision making is so bad. Right. Because he just makes wild fucking decisions, jacks up shots that don't make any sense. I know.
They were playing the Memphis Grizzlies when this happened, and Eric was like, yeah, this guy's a fucking dumbass. Ja Morant's where the truth is.
Also, right. I still feel like that. But anyway, but yeah, so granted, those were, but look, those were early. Granted, Anthony Edwards clearly has figured that out, right? Has come to put added this 3-point shot out of nowhere 2 seasons ago.
One of the best 3-point shooters.
Has just worked and worked on his game and developed into one of the best players in the league. And I think it's not a coincidence that the coaching staff there and that the team around him has done that, right? I think that organization has been supportive of him while being like, hey, you need to be better. And he internally is like, oh, I need to be better. I feel like LaMelo Ball has a perfect opportunity to do this. I think on the court, LaMelo's passing is going to be just exactly what they need. Also, his size is not going to take anything away from again, Naz Reid goes out. Naz Reid is a bad defender anyway. LaMelo and him are about the same height. So
you're probably putting a lot more Jaden McDaniels at the 4 now, but
Jaden McDaniels,
bad.
Right? That's awesome. He's got the longest arms, second longest arms in the.
You've also got guys like Terrence Shannon off your bench who can come in and play the 4 whenever Jaden McDaniels is guarding, on defense when Jaden McDaniels is guarding the other team's best guard, like he often does.
So I love the fit, but I think that the best argument against this I heard was from Bill Simmons, who was like, I fucking hate this. Yeah. And the thing that he said, I was like, oh, this makes sense. Is the games played? Is that LaMelo played the most games he had played basically in his whole career last year. Right. And they had a bunch of success. And for Charlotte, I think they're clearly selling high here.
That's the thought. They better be selling high.
Or they think they're selling high.
You know what I mean? There's a real possibility they're not here. And this could be a horrifying trade for them.
Right. Yeah. No. And that's where it's like, I love this for Minnesota. But that caveat is that LaMelo has to play. Yes. Right. He has to be on the floor.
He has to play, and he has to play well. Yes.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. He has to play, and he has to improve his decision making, right, and fit with these guys. So that's not nothing.
No,
right? That's not a right. You know what I mean? We're gonna talk about the Lakers later. There's a bet that Minnesota is making on LaMelo Ball here. Yeah. I just like that though. I just and this will lead to my thoughts on
Charlotte.
No. On the Lakers and the trade they made.
Yeah.
And just that, and really all the moves that they made, I think that it's smart for teams to realize that you're betting on the future, right? And that past performance doesn't necessarily dictate future performance, right? And betting
particularly when you're trading for a very young player,
yeah, or when you're signing players, or when trading for or signing players who, and we see it, we saw with Nickeil Alexander-Walker this year, right? Sometimes players take a while to develop, and they're in the
context
league.
matters.
And, right, and context and fit and like and coaching and development.
Pretty crazy.
And
I think
number of years.
Nikhil was on this team like
right, and like and Nikhil had bounced around the league before that.
Yes,
after he was drafted, right, in New Orleans, and then was in Portland, and just.
But then he looked awesome in Minnesota.
He looked like a guy who like kind of was maybe going to wash out. Found himself in Minnesota, and then had a huge come up the next year, right? Like in Atlanta. And so I think just watching that, like being patient with your young guys, signing guys who, I don't know, to me, a bet on the future. This is what this looks like. And I like it. I love it for Minnesota. I absolutely fucking love it.
I am in total agreement with you. I love this trade. I love that Minnesota's taking the chance that they just kind of have to. I'm sorry. People talking about like, well, Ant's just going to leave in 2 years. What do you think Ant was going to do if they didn't make a big move that made their team a lot better? Like, then they would have been stuck in the mud. No, I think that they took the shot they were supposed to take.
And LaMelo's talent is inarguable. Like, the flashes he shows is just like, oh my God. It's just always been coupled with, oh my God.
With the most insane shot choices you've ever fucking seen in your life. But, like, okay, yes. And I think what really gets people about LaMelo is that he is really like reducto ad absurdum. Like, this is the craziest player that you could introduce into your like good team.
Yeah.
But I just like, are we stupid? Did we forget? Like, there were times before where people would say, you can't build a good Dennis Rodman can't be one of your 3 best players on a great team. Or Karl Anthony Towns simply can't be one of the essential guys on your great team.
Right.
Or Ron Artest simply can't be one of the essential guys on your great team. And
title winner.
Proven over and over and over that context and team situations matter. And that LaMelo Ball, who Zach Lowe on his podcast, whenever he was trying to explain why this trade might have happened, said, I just think Charlotte doesn't think LaMelo Ball has the kind of physical intensity that you might need to actually survive in a playoff series. Well, guess what environment is the most, like, is there an environment that could be more protective of LaMelo Ball's defensive weaknesses than this one, where everyone on the team learns to be tough? And even if you aren't, you are. Mike Conley has been able to fucking bounce around and guard guys and play real minutes on this team. Like, LaMelo's 6'7". LaMelo's still a big boy. If he can figure his way out on defense, this team.
And he looked better last year. I thought he had already made like some progress last year.
He's also what I would say is one of the 15 or 20 best players in the league. Shout out where I put him on that list next to Jaylen Brown. But I just I think he's one of the 20 best players in the league. That's why it's like I think they made a big talent jump here
from a not just talent but like actual production.
Last year, his team was
his
easily
shooting percentages are still like
he had the second best offensive number. His team got the second best offensive improvement of any player in the league behind Jokic whenever he came on the floor. His passing his willingness to pass everywhere,
fucking superlative. Yeah,
and his range and willingness to cock that thing back fucking anywhere on the floor makes him a really dangerous offensive player. Yeah. And he's also so much bigger than the guys who are guarding him some of the time. Yeah. So he can create advantages where it looks like there's nothing there. Yeah. And then he can deliver any pass you need him to. Like, all of his weaknesses can get papered up by this Minnesota team. I really do think this is like one of the cooler swings that a team could have taken in an era where you could have very easily, like the people gave Rockets credit for in the Warriors era. Like it's fun when you go, fuck that. I think the answer to beating Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama is to stretch these motherfuckers out and make them make decisions 30 feet away from the rim. And Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama with this team are going to have to deal with, hey, this year Wemby could kind of sit around whenever he saw Randall rumbling through the lane and Gobert sitting in the dunker spot and go, I can cover almost 3 guys here and I'll be fine. Because Victor Wembanyama can do that against almost everybody. Yeah. On a team like this, where you've got Ant, Jaden McDaniels, and LaMelo Ball, and maybe at some point Donte DiVincenzo, fingers crossed, coming at you, there's not really the same options. You're going to have to do you're going to have to accept what the Knicks got to do to them over and over again, which was well, you're gonna have to give it up to one of our really good shooters and you better hope that they go on a cold streak because otherwise, if OG Anunoby shoots like he's supposed to on open threes, you might be dead in the water. And that's the same way I feel about how Jaden McDaniels has improved. The same way I feel about how good of a shooter Anthony Edwards is. I love this trade. Yes, it can cost them a lot. But guess what? Everything can cost you a lot. Not moving can cost you a lot too. Instead, they bulked up. They got fucking weird as hell. And they might get fucking LeBron as a reward for it because even LeBron can look at this team, which admittedly Eric said before this podcast, like, you're not fucking going there. They're too crazy. Like, he can look at this team and look at the other options he has and legitimately go, while yes, this team is much crazier, this might be the most talent I can play with next year. Yeah. This might be the best chance at straight up beating or a champion or one of the OKC or San Antonio that I can have.
Yeah, so I'm not with you. But I'm with you on everything else that you said.
But Hachimura being in this spot too will also make them
I would love the Rui signing. I feel like Rui is such a fucking steady guy, and he's just so versatile. He's not like overwhelmingly great at really anything. He's become a really good shooter, which is awesome. But he's not like a lockdown defender, but he can guard basically every player on the floor. I think that matters. I think he's like just steady as shit. I think that matters. I kind of have loved him over the last bunch of years on the Lakers. I think he's really developed into a great player and a really nice complementary piece in your rotation. And having
Shannon and Dosunmu off the bench, like that's
Yeah.
You are rich in talent whenever you got that as your backup.
No, we're saying this. Rui Hachimura has not been signed by Minnesota.
No.
Minnesota
has LeBron James.
Has been lobbying for LeBron. Yes. And apparently, according to Rich Paul's weird whiteboard,
they're on the whiteboard. They're on the whiteboard.
I just think as a man who is so good always at tea leaves and
Eric has been historically fantastic at guessing where LeBron James will go.
So as a man who's never missed.
This man has been taking credit for the fucking decision to the Miami for
I'm saying I'm calling it again. Years. I'm calling it again. I just think he goes to Miami
again.
I think he goes back to Miami. I think there's not. I think Minnesota. This is the most pampered piece of shit ever. Minnesota is cold as hell. He didn't want to live there. LaMelo
Minnesota in December,
fucking crazy
February.
People. And I bet you he looks at them like they're annoying kids. Like there's no way LeBron doesn't look down his fucking nose at LaMelo especially, but at Ant and him too, and that culture, and go like, the other thing is that I think LeBron does deeply care about fit. He will care about fit on the floor and about optics, and I don't think this is why I don't think he's going to Cleveland.
On the floor here is pretty fantastic,
right? And that's why I think they're on the table. I think those other reasons are why they're not on the table, and I think Miami is there's a
Miami's
story
the
there.
Best mix of all of it. I agree. I want to know. I'm with Eric here. I just think I've been kind of personally denigrating Minnesota as an option, and as we get closer and closer, and basically as LeBron still hasn't made a decision, and I think more about it, I think Minnesota's in here. I think Minnesota's probably
they're
like
in
the second or third choice right now.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like Minnesota has to be high on the list. For sure, just because of
I think it makes more on the floor sense than Cleveland. I think it makes more on the floor sense than maybe all of them.
Cleveland will not happen because I don't think LeBron will play with Harden. And
so I think the actual last three here are I agree. I don't think he wants to play with Harden. I don't think he wants to play with Mitchell and Harden specifically together.
Yeah, I just think that's no. And he will play much better with LaMelo and Ant on the floor.
I think Minnesota, Philly, and Miami are the last choices. I really do. I don't think Golden State's in there because they couldn't make the AD deal, and there's just not enough talent. And he wants he'll say whatever. If he's considering a veteran minimum, he wants a title shot. Yeah, and those are the teams that have the title shot.
He wants a title shot, and he wants minutes because he wants to be the one that gets
exactly right. It can't be.
It can't be San Antonio. It can't be.
It's why OKC probably isn't an option. It's why know what I mean. It's
OKC would be an amazing fit on the floor. They need
and the
him.
Knicks.
Oh my
the Knicks
God.
too. You heard Rich Paul say it. He was like he would be on the Knicks already if they didn't win the title.
If they didn't win and that tells you right there what he's
thinking about. Exactly.
And whatever. And there's been no more self-conscious star that we've ever had, who's more fucking aware. I mean, lately he seems like he's not real self-aware with the bullshit.
PR Bron.
But yeah, exactly. Like this little PR motherfucker. Like anyway, whatever.
Let's talk about the other side of the Charlotte trade.
I got it. Let's go. We got to
go for it.
Yeah. So Charlotte. Okay. Yeah. So Charlotte, LaMelo's out. They deal Miles Bridges to the Suns. They deal
fuck out of here.
Yeah, fuck out of here. Fuck yeah. This is why we're gonna talk about the Suns. Fuck Miles Bridges. Like, go home. Go home. You shouldn't even be in the league. You should be in fucking jail. Also, fuck jail, but also fuck you. Anyway, okay.
You definitely shouldn't be paid millions of dollars to
not be allowed to do this. Game. Not be allowed to have this privilege. Nope. You should have, with the violence that you committed against your domestic partner and the mother of your children, you should absolutely not be allowed to do this anymore. Sorry. Okay.
Miles Bridges also has the 2 picks sent out in that trade. Or wait, excuse me, has the pick sent out in that trade as part of that trade that is a lot less good sounding than a first rounder usually is. It's actually like the least favorable of 3 teams, including a couple of really good ones in there. The Jazz, the T-Wolves, and the Cavs. Is that whose it is?
Yeah, or that's what you have here.
So
no,
that's what
as a part of that. Yeah. So
and
so Miles Bridges got some of Grayson Allen
and not that bad of a
Royce
pick.
O'Neal. And a pick that's like probably not that great, and another second round pick. Yeah. So and Josh Green are out. So in Naz Reid, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Kobe White, who they got at the deadline, but now they've signed to a 3-year, $74 million deal. That seems big, but whatever.
It's not as big as I would assume it was.
It's not. I like Desuma more, but also I like Kobe White too. I think he's good. So and clearly they are investing in him. He is their point guard now. That is, they're
also
now,
investing.
Buddy.
They're also investing in their future because they got a lot of picks.
Colin Sexton is out. We didn't put Colin Sexton.
Oh yeah, I did miss. Colin Sexton is out.
So they also a 2033 unprotected first round pick from Minnesota. 3 first-round swaps from Minnesota, 28, 29, 30. We already discussed that. 3 seconds from Minnesota as well. And then
also an unprotected first-rounder from Phoenix.
Yeah, so they have 2 unprotected picks in 2033.
Yeah.
In that draft. 1 from Minnesota, 1 from Phoenix. I don't know.
What do you think?
Damn it, I was gonna ask you first. I was gonna make you go.
I'll tell you real quickly what I think. I think they just shot themselves in the foot for a year. I think they're not going to be as good this year. And I also think that they just took a huge, huge risk, not just with their fans, and they are taking a huge risk with their fan base by going, hey, we just had a decent year for the first time in forever.
One of the best years they've had in like
20 years.
Literally, yeah, exactly.
And they said fuck you to their fan base and said, yeah, who cares? And then they're also just taking the risk that LaMelo Ball doesn't just become a stud in Minnesota because he's like 25 or 26.
Because those picks depend on that. Like the bet here is not.
Also, really, they might have just traded away a top fucking 15 player in the league. Like you traded away a young stud after his best year. Like, yes, his injury problems have been real. Guess what? Steph Curry had injury problems at the beginning of his career. Lots of guys have injury problems at the beginning of their career. LaMelo Ball's injuries are maybe a little more severe. If you want to make that argument, I would say that is part of their calculus here, is they want to get out of the LaMelo Ball money in the game of betting on his body. But man, they took themselves a big old risk here. The answer for me is I don't love it, but I get why people. There's a very often repeated saying around NBA circles that's like, it's really easy to win the trade whenever you didn't give up, or excuse me, when you're giving up the best player. It's really easy to, on paper, win a trade. Basically, you always end up with assets that are well into the future and stuff that you can use, and everyone can look at your team and go, man, they've got so much flexibility. You know what flexibility is for? Yeah. To get top 20 players in the league.
Yeah. Those draft picks they turn into players.
And swaps don't turn into shit if you traded with a team that's better than you.
Well,
and that's what they got mostly for LaMelo Ball was 3 first-round swaps.
That's to me the real thing, is that no matter what, even if LaMelo struggles, Anthony Edwards will not, and that team is a good team around him.
They're a top 4 team in the West.
Right. Yeah, I think so probably. And
Unless Rudy Gobert falls off in some major way, yeah.
and he's getting older, so maybe, right? Like there's some world where that
Yeah.
happens.
But
But
he looked really
to me
fucking awesome this year.
with
He
Edwards
sure shut the fuck out of.
like Minnesota now has the two best players of these two teams. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just don't I don't know,
What are
man.
you talking
I
about?
don't
They might have like they definitely have the three best players of these two teams. They might have the four best players of these two teams. Jay McDaniels might be better than anybody on that team. I'm just saying, like, they just gave up talent in this trade, and it looks cool because they get to restart, and Brandon Miller's young, and Con Knippel's so young. But like, those guys looked awesome last year. Guess who was passing them the ball?
Yeah. I like Brandon Miller, I like Con, but I just think that
I love Brandon Miller.
I don't know that those guys also are guys who get their own shot. I think your point is the right one, is that LaMelo getting the offense going was the engine, and you traded away your engine. Now you have like a cool, nice like carburetor. We don't have carburetors in cars anymore, but you have like some sweet rims and like like an awesome paint job or whatever, but like
with a V6 in the fucking in the in the car. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I'm saying that like does your car go? I don't know. Yeah, and I just doing this after the fan base thing to me is just such a key thing. It's just like, dude,
people talk about how Boston, oh my God, Boston, they're gonna riot. It's fucking the Celtics. Those fucking red-faced pieces of shit will cheer for that team no matter what fucking happens. Forgive me, anybody I might actually like in Boston. But I mostly mean all of the people who talk about them all of the time. But the fucking Hornets, like, they get to pick between all the other college basketball teams. Those teams are pro teams now too with NIL deals.
They already, they're Duke, like
North Carolina, Wake Forest.
There's so much basketball. They were already kind of behind all of the great college basketball teams.
And then you trade away your fan favorite stud.
And you were starting to get your fans in the door with this great run you were on last year, and then I don't know, man.
I only talked about it. I talked about it a little bit earlier, and I don't want to talk too much about it because I do think it's like maybe a full episode kind of thing. But it really does feel like Nico Harrison, like, he really did open something up for these fucking crazy people. And now every president of a team feels like they can deal like their young stud and go, no. Like, maybe something good will happen in the draft. Yeah, guess what? Cooper Flag wasn't supposed to happen, man.
Also,
like,
Nico Harrison got fired.
Because they suck right now.
Yeah, and the fan base like lost their shit until this man got fired like a couple months into the season. I just
what I think is so funny, this is my favorite, and this is where we'll end this one, is Brad Stevens watched the team he beat in the finals 2 years ago trade their best player and literally tear down a team that was good enough to make the finals and play them, and said, let me do that. I'm going to do that. I want to get in on some of that. I don't fucking know. Dude, LaMelo and Jaylen Brown getting traded this offseason really is like a sign of like, oh man, I guess we just don't like these guys like we used to.
Well, it's
OKC may have broken things. Maybe the Knicks broke things by having this like amazing role play. I don't fucking know. But no one thinks that you need 3 stars or 2 stars to build a great team anymore. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves might have just gotten a fucking like, wait, you don't want your second superstar? You don't? All right, deal. Now we have 2 engines. Now we're a real sports car. Anyway, sorry to beat a metaphor that I don't really understand.
You don't. I don't think 2 engines. It doesn't. Nope.
Let's talk about Toronto. The next power team that my favorite, probably my most, it's the most fun move of all the moves that were made this summer. I really, really love this one. Toronto out in Toronto are their best player, or excuse me, their best scorer last year, Brandon Ingram. Grady Dick, their lottery pick from 2 years ago, and the man most famous for exchanging jerseys with guys and making it look funny. And they sent out 2 first-rounders and a swap in 2 seconds to get the guy we're about to say. Also they gave up. Also, Sandro Mamukelashvili is Laker.
Left in free agency.
Yeah. But they traded all that stuff I just said before, Mamu, for Kawhi Leonard, former Toronto Raptor, 2014 and 2019 Finals MVP, guy who was probably the fifth best player in the NBA last year, Kawhi motherfucking Leonard is on the Raptors again.
Your excitement here, I kind of love your excitement, and I think it's very well placed because I feel like people like this. No one has given a shit. Everyone's like, "Oh, Kawhi got traded, cool." And granted, it was followed up by like these other, the
like
Jaylen
massive
Brown
moves
and
that were like
LaMelo.
unthinkable.
Yeah,
And we
the
kind of
things
thought
that
Kawhi
we
might get
already.
dealt.
Yeah, and Kawhi's older, so like the idea that we know Kawhi isn't himself or isn't the guy who was those Finals MVPs, did lead that team to a championship anymore.
I disagree with that. I disagree with what you're saying right here. I would say that Kawhi Leonard last year had his best season in his NBA career.
In his career?
Look at his stats last year, dude.
No, he was
like,
great. No. I know he was. I know he was.
Nah, fuck it. I'm gonna rattle them off. You keep talking, but I'm gonna rattle off these fucking stats in a second.
Go ahead. Pull them up. I think people are underrating how I'm with you though. Like I think people are underrating Kawhi and this reunion as because I think people don't understand that the Raptors Scotty Barnes is really good and that team kind of has a lot of stuff around it. The problem had been some of these contracts like Ingram that they had invested in guys that were like, pretty good, but are you whatever?
But I want to know, the Ingram deal looks fucking brilliant right now because it looks like they did. I remember at the time they signed him, people were like, no, they need a tradable asset at this high level. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Who's going to trade for Brandon Ingram's $41 million a year deal? Guess who? The Clippers, whenever you attach a bunch of picks to it. Yeah, man. Look, Ingram, this is what's so funny about this trade. This is the same trade that happened in 2019 before they got, like, Brandon Ingram is DeMar DeRozan. Fucking Grady Dick is some fucking guy who's probably a little overrated. Their picks are awesome here. Their picks are actually, I would say Toronto actually gave up way more in this trade than they did in that trade. But the real reason for that is that Ingram is probably worse than DeRozan was considered at the time. In terms of just like where they are in their place in the league. But yeah, man, Toronto's problem last year was that they didn't have a guy to fucking throw the ball to. And that when they did, it was Brandon Ingram who creates okay shots.
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard is like maybe the preeminent killer of the NBA. Yeah. Top 5 at least. He is a murderer who can create an advantage everywhere. And he looked so healthy last year. And just to give to give my stats and to rattle them off, he had 28 points on 19 shots last year. He shot 57% from 2-point range. He shot 39% from 3 on 5.7 threes a game. Shot 90% from the free throw line. So real close to a 50-40-90 year, which he scored 28 points a game. Had 3.6 assists to 2 turnovers. Had 6 boards. Board man gets paid. And most importantly, played 32 minutes a game in 65 games on a year where they weren't good enough to make the playoffs. And so he sat a lot of games just to sit him. And this guy, when he was out there, he produced. He came in, I think, 7th in MVP or 8th in MVP. If you ask me, he was the 5th best player who played basketball last year. Like, I would have said there was those 3 MVP candidates, and then I would have put Luka, and then I would have said this guy. Like, that's how good he was last year. I think he should have been our all NBA first team. They got a guy like that. And yes, he is at the back end of his career. Yes, he is old. He is 34. He will be 35 this season. But they're really trading for this year and probably the 2 years they're going to pay him on the extension. You know what I mean? Like, they're paying for 3 years here. And we've seen guys of only a certain caliber. Deal, right? Go ahead. What'd you say?
This is the last year of his deal?
Last year on his deal, but he's extension eligible, and there's been a lot of talk that they basically had it. He wasn't going to get traded anywhere that wasn't going to sign him to that extension. So they're probably just negotiating, like, if they can save a few million off of that at the beginning of the year.
But again, this is a generational, this is a Hall of Famer, right? Like a fucking multiple finals MVP, a guy who, the
4th best player of the last decade.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
An all-timer,
always in discussion with, like, Is he better than Durant? Is he better than James Harden? Like,
is he better than LeBron?
is he better
at
than
his
LeBron?
best?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
In 2019, people thought he was the best player in the league. You want to know why? Because he had just beaten the Warriors and the rest of the league and won the goddamn title.
And he just had, again, per your point, for the Clippers, looking at this from the Clippers standpoint, I love the trade for the Clippers because you weren't going to stay in the Kawhi business forever.
Yeah,
and he just had a great year. So hey, now
is
the time.
Clippers discussion real quickly and just say here and just do it right here and just say this was a great return for Kawhi Leonard. This was as good of a return as you could have gotten. A swap and 2 for unprotected firsts for this level of player on just 1 year left, who probably wanted to leave your team. Man, it was an awesome return. I just think we should think Scotty Barnes is an underrated stud in this league.
I think so.
And he's so good at everything except what Kawhi Leonard is best at. He is so good at everything except one-on-one destructive or offensive play. He's an amazing passer who creates advantages all the time. He is one of the best off or on-the-ball defenders in the league, and honestly, one of the most interesting off-ball, like just smarts, figuring out where he's supposed to be, and just pure energy players for his level of talent. Huge and willing to give up the ball whenever. Yeah. This is the perfect guy to sit next to him. And Kawhi wanted to come back. Kawhi said he would only sign an extension with 2 teams. It's romantic that he's coming back to the Raptors. It's wonderful that he literally fills in the spot that he's supposed to there. And as much as I'm a pro Knicks, I think the Knicks are going to repeat the East at least. He really gives them a challenger into the Knicks to go fuck this, man. You've got to deal with in the playoffs. Yeah. Guess who's guarding you? It's either Colin Murray-Boyles or fucking Jamal Shed or Kawhi Leonard or Scotty Barnes. Yeah. We just built our little OKC East out here. Yeah. Let's try it out. I fucking love this move. And I just think it's so cool that Toronto was like, you know what? Maybe we're skipping a step in our growth pattern here, but fuck it. Why not? We were really interesting in that Cleveland series, and we are on a really cool part of our growth curve. Maybe we're cashing in at the exact moment on these 3 years of Kawhi. Maybe I'm just doing the same thing I did last year and getting excited about the KD trade to a young team that has the right infrastructure around them. But the difference here is that Kevin Durant, I don't think Kawhi Leonard will tweet anything like Kevin Durant did last year and ruin the vibes. I think Kawhi Leonard chose to come back here and chose to extend there. And even if the Raptors have some weird feelings about how he left in 2019, he's still the only guy who's ever brought a title to Toronto, and this is pretty fucking cool.
And the KD trade worked out at the beginning of the year before the vibes got ruined and then injuries fucked up the team. They were like a top 3 team in the league.
And he was like a top 13, 15 player all year.
Yeah, KD was great. I mean, the failures there were he got injured. He made everyone hate him, and the team chemistry fell apart. And then Adams got injured. So, but okay. But yeah, outside of that, had those things not happened, that would have been an amazing signing for the Rockets. If we had pressed pause in December on the season, everyone would have been like, man, what an amazing deal the Rockets made. Look at, okay, I'm gonna stop. All right, cool. So let's move on because we need to keep it moving. We knew this one was gonna run long.
Yeah, and we got 2 big ones to talk about here.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going. No, look. We had to talk about the Boston Philly thing, and I'm sorry, y'all. I know you've probably read it about it and listened to it enough times. It's just so weird, and we needed to talk about it in depth. Yeah. Eric and I needed to have our therapy session here regarding it, and I think we did, and we got that out. And now we can talk about the important things, like Walker Kessler and whatever the hell just happened with his contract. Yeah, and let's start on the maybe less stakes heavy side of this, the Utah Jazz. Who did the Utah Jazz? They lost other guys, but really the only meaningful player who's left their team this summer is Walker Kessler. Kessler, their restricted free agent, big center. There had been discussions on if he was going to get re-signed for big money, if he was worth $30 million a year or even more, which is what his free agents team had been asking for. And Utah had the cudgel of restricted free agency to always be able to say, you know what? Yeah, he might be getting overpaid somewhere, whether it's Brooklyn or LA or Chicago, but we can always match it. And the Lakers decided they were going to pull the trigger on what you can do to beat that, which is sign and trade the guy and make a deal with Utah themselves. And what Utah loses in their young stud center of Walker Kessler, who admittedly only played 5 games last year and has only played 3 seasons in the NBA. And it's pretty wild that he's getting paid for what he is. What they got back were a lot of fucking picks from LA. They got back 2 first rounders, 2031 and 33, as well as 2 first round swaps, 2028 and 30, making the Lakers completely out of picks to trade. They do not have a single year that they can trade right now. They are out of, their entire kitty is empty. And what they put in instead, what Utah also got besides players, or excuse me, besides those picks, were the Rockets, Josh Okogie from last year, who got a 2-year, $12 million deal. The Lakers actually backup center Jackson Hayes with a 2-year, $12 million deal. And the number 2 pick in the draft, which we've already discussed, Darren Peterson, who scored 18 points or 19 points in his summer league debut yesterday on 5 for 11 shooting and looked fucking awesome. And already looks like the stud that they need. And what I think about this real quickly, and I'll let you talk, but I think you and I have talked about this. You basically, last time we were on this podcast, or the last 2 times we've been on this podcast, I've talked about my big hot take, which was that I thought the Utah Jazz were going to make the second round next year. Yeah. And Alex, Sands, our guest last week, 9 days ago or whatever, asked me, this is all dependent on Walker Kessler returning. And I was like, yeah. So Walker Kessler's not returning. So now, what do I think? I think they probably still are. I think they're like a play-in team now. I think they're probably I think it markedly hurts them this year. The question is it worth it for them to have risked giving up what might be a really good young player who would have aged right with their young players for what was, I mean, a shit ton of draft capital? What do you think, Eric?
I am I'm more bullish on them, actually. Not more bullish in the sense that I think they're going to be better than they would have been with Walker Kessler, but dude, that's like 4 picks from the Lakers, like
4 picks from the Lakers.
And here's my thing. I kind of love this for both teams. Like I love Utah's offseason. I think Peterson's going to be an awesome fit. I think he's going to be great. I already, like, they already got Jaren Jackson kind of for nothing before this, and I just think he's kind of forgotten here. And the other thing that I'll tell you, so this is my thought, is that I think the idea when you got Jaren Jackson, right, was that he needs to be paired with a center because here's a guy who everybody loves to shit on, right? Is like, oh, he doesn't rebound, he's a bad player. Like, like, have you watched Jaren Jackson play? Because he's amazing. He was defensive player of the year for a reason. His rebounding, he doesn't historically rebound great, but he's also historically played next to great rebounders. Yes. Right? He played with Steven Adams for a large chunk of this, right? So
Brandon Clark. They always had a big next to him too. Yeah,
there was always like these great rebounders who played next to Jaren. Jaren also doesn't get offensive rebounds because he's often in offenses that are guard heavy, like the Grizzlies was. He was on the perimeter trying to drag the other team's bigs out, right? Which is, as we know, a fucking great strategy and also like a great asset to his game. The other thing I think that, to me, what we're forgetting about Jaren was, I think it was 3 seasons ago, the year that Ja was hurt, the sort of lost year in Memphis.
Yeah,
where like the year that before kind of everything went to shit, and when they
put the ball in his hands a lot.
When he was kind of the last man standing, and he had a great year. Yeah. Like the increased usage not only helped his offense, which it did. I think the next year, the thought was that for Memphis, it was that all of these tools that he had built were gonna, like we're gonna really pay dividends that next year in Memphis. But that next year in Memphis, Ja got hurt again,
Yeah.
and and then the Taylor Jenkins got fired, and then it just everything culturally went to shit
Yeah.
with the team, and so we didn't get to see that kind of Jaren get to show off these offensive skills that he had. I also felt like that year they played him at center more, and I think that helped his defense. Again, you didn't
Yeah.
see it because he was kind of playing by himself, and they lost a bunch of games. But if you were watching those games, I honestly think that there may be a little bit of a blessing in disguise here because they have. It's not like they don't have size,
Yeah.
and um and granted, Kessler obviously would have been great next to these guys. That they would have been rebounding everything, you know, and they would have their rim protection would have been amazing. But Jaren's a great rim protector, right?
Yes.
And I think the
Former defensive player of the year.
you're going to get a big offensive boost by playing Jaren at the five, like, and I think he'll step up. I
And
think
you'll get more minutes for Bailey. Like,
yeah.
and Markkanen's more in his natural position.
Right, exactly.
Or,
I do
like,
think there's a world where this fits actually great.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I honestly, like, for somebody who bitched as much as I did earlier about how I think Jaylen Brown is going to take possessions away from VJ Edgecombe, it makes me
Yeah.
really happy it's not like Kessler was going to eat up a bunch of possessions, but there's just going to be more minutes for Bailey now. And
Yeah.
I think that Ace Bailey is a part of their future core in the same
Yeah.
way that Peterson and Keontae George are.
Dude, and Jaren Jackson's 26. It's not like he's old.
Dude,
You know
like
what I
they
mean?
can
Like,
no, Jaren Jackson's the one that they want to try. Markkanen's actually the one who you might, if you're going to
yeah.
sell on anybody at some point, you might sell
Yeah.
on.
But I think he's a
like,
great fit next to Jackson. I just think
oh,
like
dude, they
yeah.
have again, their shooting next year is going to be out of this fucking world. Yes, I think what I think is like they lost their upside here for next year,
Yeah.
but they might have really gotten a lot in the future. And I honestly, like, the real cost to me here is really just how good do you think Kessler is going to be, and did you give up a guy who might actually be a stud for like flexibility in the future? But it's like, would you rather have the flexibility, or would you rather have a great player on 4 years of it, or of the prime of his career, basically?
But for that money, this is the other thing about role to me, right? Is it's like
Yeah.
Kessler.
No, I mean, I think Utah
on-
was making that decision that they would rather basically they want to be in the Lauri Markkanen business more than they want to
Yeah.
be in the Walker Kessler business.
Right.
And that makes sense to me.
and that's it. I think that's the comparison. I've been talking about Jaren Jackson, but to me, if you're committing to Markkanen, if you're committing to Jaren Jackson, both of those guys, then Kessler, no matter what, is going to be like a 25, 28 minute a game player, maybe 30-minute a game player, maybe because you're not going to. Because the offense is it's gonna get a little clunky at times. You're gonna want to go a little bit smaller. You're gonna want to go with Jaren and Markkanen at your 4 and 5, right? Like at times to juice the offense. And so I just don't like if you're gonna say, hey, we're not gonna have a heavy role for this guy that clearly is gonna warrant a $30+ million contract from another team who's also gonna give you 4 first round picks for that.
What's so funny is like all the trades we've talked about, like the Jazz got the most for Walker Kessler, then
right,
the
more than
Celtics got for
Brown.
Jaylen Brown,
yeah.
Then the Raptors got or then the Clippers got for Kawhi Leonard. Like, name your stud who got traded.
Yeah.
Like Walker Kessler, the only person who has any competition with Walker Kessler is Giannis Antetokounmpo in terms of what you got this summer, which is a crazy thought. But like,
yeah,
the difference here
and still
was the need. The Lakers, they had the Lakers over the barrel here because because they could match, and the Lakers needed Walker Kessler more than clearly than the Jazz did.
Right, and that's, I mean, if you want to go,
and I think that's the shift. And I think that's the shift. Is like, let's talk about the Lakers.
And
what they needed.
Exactly. And to me, that's where it's like, I kind of like this for the Lakers too, because Walker Kessler is such a fucking need, a big who like, and I think the things that he already has demonstrated he can do, which is rebound and protect the rim, like,
and catch lobs. Yeah.
And catch lobs too. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's the part where I've got questions, right? Where it's like, as a role man, as
I think he's going to be pretty good at it. I think he's actually going to be pretty. His hands have looked pretty good. He just hasn't had great passes.
We haven't seen him in a right exactly. We haven't seen him in a situation with a passer anywhere close to Luka.
Austin Reeves, much less fucking Luka Doncic.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious about it. To me, it's just an unknown. But the Lakers made this bet because it's such a fucking need, and he fills in such a huge gap for them that they gave up a ton. I mean, holy shit.
2 first rounders, 2 swaps, and let's get to
the money.
The money. 4 years, $130 million for Walker Kessler. That makes him paid $32.5 million a year in AAV.
That's like the Şengün money. That's like Şengün money.
Yes, they're paying Walker Kessler like one of the top 5 to 7 or whatever bigs in the league. Let's just go through the litany. They are probably the team that has changed the most. We've talked a lot about teams changing the most. The Lakers have like a brand new roster.
Yeah, they've totally overhauled their team. Clearly this is what they were waiting for. We talked about this last year.
We've talked about this endlessly.
Destroyed them because I was like, what a fucking mess of just like the most impotent offseason I've ever seen last summer with the signings. But obviously they were waiting for LeBron's contract to end so they could remake the team in free agency. I had doubts whether that was going to be possible. They did it. They overhauled the fucking team. They built a team around Luka Doncic, like a real team around him. Anyway, yeah. So
what's so funny is like this is the entire starting lineup of the team that beat the fucking Rockets in the first round.
Right.
LeBron, Marcus out in LA.
The guys who are gone.
LeBron James, their starting power forward on that team. Marcus Smart, their starting small forward on that team. DeAndre Ayton, the starting center on that team. Rui Hachimura, the starting other power forward on that team. And I guess LeBron was the starting point guard, whatever. And Luke Kennard, the starting shooting guard on that team. That's the entire starting 5, as well as their backup center for that team, for that lineup, Jackson Hayes. Those are all out. All those guys are gone.
All these guys are gone.
Instead, what they brought back is obviously Walker Kessler, as we've already discussed. Also, Austin Reeves, their young stud. They bring him back on a 4-year, $185 deal. He probably gave up a little bit of money. The Pistons are apparently shown that they were willing to trade everything that they needed to get an opening slot and put Austin Reeves as a max player on their team. And the Lakers apparently said, nope, we're going to put around as much or just throw as much money as we need to. 4 years, $185 million. That is what? That's just under 50 a year. That's like 42.5 a year, I think.
That may act 46. That may actually have been because I think he's only eligible for the 25% max.
Gotcha.
That may have been. Are you sure it's not 5?
No. This is the deal.
So really, but they couldn't have given him the 5th year. Because
I think they could have given him a 5th year. I don't think they did.
Yeah, but I think I have to look at it. But he's eligible for the 25%, not the 30 or the 30%.
Also coming in, Sandro Mamukelashvili, as we discussed earlier, left the Raptors. He is now maybe their starting power forward.
I think he is. Yeah.
Quentin Grimes coming in from Philly, as we've already discussed, 4 years, $60 million. He might be their starting small forward. Colin Sexton, their new backup point guard, comes in from Charlotte at 2 years, $18.8 million. Then they re-signed DeAndre Ayton, actually, and then they traded him for Jaden Hardy, and along with some
think
picks.
he had a player option.
Yeah. So they bring in Jaden Hardy from the Wizards, formerly from the Dallas Mavericks. Former backup point guard on the teams that Luka used to play on. And they also got Cameron Carr in the draft. He is the number 24 pick, but I am mentioning him because there is a good chance he's actually their starting small forward by the end of the year if he plays well. They need the point of attack defense more than they need anything else. So the Lakers just shifted their entire roster. You seem pretty up on them. What do you think about the Lakers' moves, and what do you think they actually mean for their ceiling this year and next year?
Sorry, I had read that Kuminga had signed, but no, he hasn't.
Okay. And they haven't added Jonathan Kuminga yet. They made them.
Sorry. Yeah, I was about to be like, and Kuminga, but
this is also the other place that Rui might Rui may re-sign there.
So it sounded like they're thinking about, so we have Rui Hachimura as out, but it sounds like there was a rumor that the Lakers were trying to, with the last bit of their money, trying to sign either Rui Hachimura or considering Jonathan Kuminga for that last roster spot.
Yes.
I love it. We already spoke to this, but I think like as much as I hated all of the signings that they did last summer, and Jake LaRivia is still there and he's still garbage, but like Marcus Smart's gone, good, he sucks. Like DeAndre Ayton's out, good, he's bad. Fucking Luke Kennard is gone, he's terrible. Like this is and all
these guys beat the Houston Rockets in the
right,
playoffs
which was as we spoke to after the fact among the most embarrassing things
we said it during the fact
ever occurred. Yeah, in the middle, during, right, yeah, among the most. Again, that's to me why that was among the most embarrassing things, because that team didn't have Luka, didn't have Reeves, had just like a miserable roster, like a 20 game, like just the fucking the Nets roster, like the Kings roster every year forever. I just the worst. Plus, anyway, so all those guys are out. All those guys are out, right? You got Walker Kessler in. I think the bets on Mamu. I love Grimes. I like Sexton. I think all these guys are underrated. All these guys are on the younger side. Yeah. All of these guys have shown like a lot in like the opportunities they've gotten. My concern is still the perimeter defense. Is that like I think Grimes is a solid defender. I don't think he's a great defender,
but he's the best defender on their roster.
Right, but
he's the best defender who we know is going to play on their roster. Maybe Vando can get that spot.
Well, on the perimeter.
Yeah, obviously, maybe Tiro can get that spot. Well, yeah, Kessler's the best defender on the team.
And clearly, it's like the idea is that Kessler
will clean up the mistakes.
And I think he will. I mean, like the center position.
I have a lot of fucking cleaning to do. I have a lot of that. So he's going to earn every bit of that $32.5 million.
Right, exactly. I mean, he has at this point. I think there's a world where you and I talked about this idea of Rui, because they also still really don't have that kind of small forward to mix in to guard other like perimeter guys, right? Like
they don't have a small forward who can guard anybody. They have Luka Doncic is probably their best,
because Grimes is really not that. Like Grimes is like 6'5", but he's really a 2 guard. Yeah. So
maybe sometimes he can play up to play a small 3.
Yeah,
but it's asking too much to have him guard the big wings.
That Mamu is definitely more of a big. He can guard up to centers, but he's not really guarding down. Like this is where
you got Luka and Austin Reeves who are going to be put into like disadvantaged positions over and over again next year.
Right. So that they still really need. So this is dependent on, in my assumption here, they're either getting Rui back or getting Kuminga. And to me, I think either of those guys round this out. In Rui, the problem with Rui is that he's also, like we already talked about, not a superlative defender, right? Yeah. He's like he's a solid defender and he's a versatile one, and I think that will be helpful. But I just think this offense is going to be amazing. I think Walker Kessler will really help with the defense. And again, your defense at the center position is the most important. So, like they got the defense at the most important position that they needed. I also just think that this team fits around Luka now, right? Yeah. It feels like, it's different, but it feels like, again, they're making bets on players.
He's about to say 2024 Mavericks. He's about to say the 2024 Mavericks. Just telling you that right now. Okay.
I was going to say, like, and in a way it does, right? Like the 2024 Mavs did this same thing where they were like, hey, here's guys around the league who've shown a little bit here who are going to fit with our guy. We know Luka's going to
make. They took chances. We didn't know Daniel Gafford was going to be that for them. We didn't know PJ Washington was going to be that for them.
Right.
Yeah, the only guy who we knew had done that job before was Kyrie, and even him, we were a little worried if he could keep it up.
If he could fit, yeah.
And instead he did, and everything worked out, and they got to the finals, and they probably would have challenged again the next year had Nico Harrison not done all the stuff he did.
Luka makes guys better, right?
He does.
He makes the players around him better. Okay. The issue is that what the Mavs did, and I think this is your question on this, is that the Mavs added like a lot of defense,
defenders,
and Lively was a thing that they necessarily didn't expect.
Exactly.
And Lively was
which
amazing.
is what Kessler is like maybe going to play the role Kessler may play here.
Yeah.
Okay, but they also had Derrick Jones Jr. and PJ Washington also played the best defense of his career. And so like that, and also PJ Washington was the right build to do that. You know what I mean? Like this is my biggest problem with this Lakers team. Is just I don't see where the growth has to come from guys who we don't know yet. Like we genuinely don't know. Because I'm telling you, I can tell you comfortably, it ain't coming from Mamu and from Quentin Grimes. Like those are not going to be, if your year ends with those guys being essential defenders for your team and being like among your best defenders, they will be the 5th best team in the West and they will lose pretty or soundly in the first round.
That's what I'm interested in. I haven't watched Mamu enough. I feel like I'm with you on Grimes. I've watched him enough to be like, yeah, I think he'll be a solid defender, but he can't be like your
they have to find their Trevor Ariza. They have to find that. Like if they don't find that by the end of this year, like they're on the death spot. Like this is the thing. So Minnesota and the Lakers are kind of interesting to me here because Ant and Luka are probably the two most like next guys to get traded among the best players in the league. And I just look at what one of those teams did and go, yes, this could totally fail, but I can see the writing here on, okay, this works out and Ant stays in Minnesota and they win their first title. Like that makes sense to me. It's not there. I wouldn't guarantee it. I would, in fact, pick a lot of other things as more likely. But it's almost a possibility. And I just look at this Lakers team and I have a really hard time imagining a world in which Luka is not asking for a trade in 2.5 years or 2 years because this team is not good enough. And everyone's talking about, well, they at least have Austin Reeves here to make a trade. Okay, they're going to need to do that like next year if they're going to make a move that's going to shift their balance of the team.
I just disagree. I just disagree because I think we're going to see. I mean, we'll see. Maybe
like
I'm putting too much faith
San Antonio. They can't guard OKC. And if they can't guard those teams, they sure as fuck don't have enough offense.
I mean, Minnesota can't either. Like, I don't know. Like
Minnesota with Rudy Gobert and with and Jaden McDaniels.
Okay,
and
Walker
Anthony
Kessler's
Edwards.
defensive numbers are most comparable to Rudy Gobert. That's
awesome.
That's his
biggest. Where's the Jaden
problem.
McDaniels? Where's the Ant? Where's the Terrence Shannon? Where's all the other defenders? Where's the 6'7"
but like the Lakers are going to be way
better
on offense than the Wolves will be. They're going to be way better.
But the Wolves also have a crazy high upside on offense now too that they didn't have beforehand. Dude, LaMelo Ball's one of the best offense.
Like the Lakers might be the best offense in the league. Like there's no way in the world the fucking Wolves are going to be the best.
T-Wolves might be the 5th best offense in the league, and they'll have a top 5 our defense.
Maybe.
Dude, they just traded for LaMelo Ball. They were a top 10 offense last year. What are we talking about?
I guess this is where we disagree because I don't think that I'm excited for the Wolves and I'm excited for the Lakers. I don't think either one of them are actual contenders in the West, really, against the top two teams.
Okay, but you think there's only 2 contenders in the West then?
Yeah. Okay. Well, really, really competitive. I don't think either of them are going to be on the level of those other two teams.
Only
I don't think either one of those teams.
Only Minnesota has a chance of any team in the West of beating those teams.
I think,
and that's the whole point of getting LaMelo is it changes your fucking equation. Suddenly you got an equation that like actually makes those teams go shit. If these guys are, I can't. You straight up can't.
What does can mean? Is can 20%? Is can 40%? Like what is
can is any percent. Can is any percent. I'm saying the Lakers have a 0%.
I think the Rockets had a percent had some percentage chance to beat like the fucking Spurs this year. Like
what in a playoff series?
Yeah,
we can end this podcast right now. We can end this podcast right now. What are you fucking talking about? The Rockets that lost to the 5 guys who just got shipped out of fucking LA?
Sure. Maybe it was 3%, maybe whatever. Like there was some percentage chance. Okay. The Rockets beat the fucking the Clippers like in whatever 2017, not 2017, in 20.
That was a much better Rockets team.
2016.
That was a much better Rockets team. That Rockets team had 2 stars who were legitimately top 15, top 20.
Yes.
They were. James Harden and fucking Dwight Howard were way better.
I mean, they didn't beat them with those guys. James Harden didn't fucking beat that Clippers team.
We did in Game 7 after Josh Smith and fucking Corey Brewer saved us from fucking destruction. Dude, all I'm trying to say is like I don't get your. I am a Luka Doncic super fan. This is not enough for him. I can tell you as a guy who's watched him and believes in his highest peaks, and they're still being in front of him. You did not give him enough stuff to be able to fight the fucking Spurs and the Thunder. He doesn't have enough chances. You've got too many guys that stuff. You gave him cool. That's awesome. Steph Castle still gets to isolate against Reeves every possession. Fucking Dylan Harper is going to be better this year. Fucking AJ Mitchell will be healthy. J-Dub will be healthy. These guys are going to feast on this Lakers defense. And they've got one good defender out of their top 12 guys.
Yeah, at the most important spot. Like,
cool. This Thunder have 15.
And again, I disagree because I think Quentin Grimes is a good defender. I just think he's not a great defender. Yeah. Like, I think that I haven't watched Mamu enough, but from what I've gathered, he's going to be a solid defender, but maybe not. I don't know. So this is where in my head I was like, well, I think Mamu and Walker Kessler will be good enough. I like the idea of taking a chance on a guy like Kuminga with his athleticism to potentially come in and
that means you've got to teach the guy to become a great point of attack defender, which he has never been. He's been good, but he's never been an elite point of attack defender his entire career. He needs to be their best. He needs to be like really fucking good at the job. They needed to trade for Dort. They needed to trade for somebody. They needed some big shifter on the perimeter on defense, and they just didn't get it. And that makes me think that's why I'm like, yeah, they're going to have to trade Reeves because there's a chance. Yeah. Because there's a chance they lose, like they become the 7th seed this year. Like there's a chance for all of these things here because they didn't definitively make themselves so much better, and they're still so dependent on Luka. Like they're still so dependent on Luka being great. Whereas like Minnesota, Ant missed games in the first round or basically wasn't playing, and they somehow fucking summoned the strength out of Io and fucking Terrence Shannon and Jaden McDaniels to win this or to beat the Nuggets.
Again, I just think that if we're going to take these unlikely outcomes and say that's the expected outcome, that was an unlikely outcome. Like that.
It was, but
those guys played over their heads.
It was an unlikely outcome, and they beat the shit out of that team. And the Lakers, dude, I mean, the Lakers didn't even play. It doesn't even matter. You can't judge what they did in the playoffs. It's not this team.
That Denver should just be blown up. Like, is that is that now the expected outcome? Because I just feel like we get so excited about small sample size things happening in the playoffs, and especially when you have injured players and you have
who are the Nuggets injured players in that series? What are you? We're going back on that.
No. You're excited because Ant was injured and they won.
I'm excited because the Wolves weren't supposed to beat the Nuggets in the first place with their full talent.
Right. And I think if you replayed that series like 10 times, I don't think they do. I think they win like 2 or 3.
They were up 3-1.
Right. They were up 3-1 in close games.
No, they were not. No, they were not. Go back and go through that series. They beat the shit out of that team. Dude, what are you talking about? Like you're rewriting the first round now. Like this isn't what happened. Minnesota beat the fucking tar out of Denver, and the Lakers beat the worst fucking team I've ever seen in the first round, the Houston Rockets. And I don't think that the Lakers did not get markedly. Anyway, all I'm trying to say is Minnesota did the thing they needed to do. They took the chance on the thing that gave them an opportunity to, yes, maybe lose their player in 2 years, but also go for it all. And I think the Lakers would have tried to do the same thing. They just missed. They just didn't get it. And there's no Peyton Watson. There's no upside here. Like I know how good they're going to be. I know what their best is going to be. Their best is going to be the number 1 offense in the league and the number 15 defense. And then the playoffs come around and they just can't guard these teams.
I just think that like and we had this discussion a little bit. So you just think that like Peyton Watson plus DeAndre Ayton is preferable to Peyton Watson?
No, they needed a big too. They needed all of it.
But who was the big that they were going to get? Who was like a better defender? I just feel like I just feel like
now we're talking about other stuff. Now we're talking about other stuff. Gafford would have been an interesting guy here. Whoever
so you think their defense is better with Watson plus Gafford than with Walker Kessler plus Mamu, and plus Mamu and Grimes, because you weren't getting Grimes. You weren't the thing that they did was they got 3 guys. Really here, right? Like as opposed to just 2.
We did this math the other day, and there was a world in which they would have had to get Watson at a cheaper price than they probably thought they could. But they also could have done the sign and trade with Denver and made it more likely, and actually not given up every fucking thing that they did for Kessler.
Right, and then so it would have been then,
and they could have spread around those picks to get Gafford or whoever they needed to do or get.
I just think we're sleeping on. I do think Walker Kessler can be a superlative defender, and I think that that his impact at the center position is going to be like way more than adding Watson and an okay center, or at, you know what I mean. Like I see the gap that you're talking about, like on the perimeter. I see that, like, hey, you know, like they're going to need at least another guy, but I also think, I think they can find that guy, and I think it was probably more important, and it will be more impactful for them to get.
I'm proud of us that we talked about the Lakers for this long, and we never brought up how white they are.
Yeah,
good for us.
You just did.
Yeah, well, they're really white.
Yeah. There's a lot of jokes online about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, that's
known for their point of attack defense. White NBA players. Anyway, yeah, we got 3 more teams we want to knock out at least.
Do you want to get to those, or do you want to just end here?
Let's at least talk about the Rockets. Okay. We don't have to talk about the Pistons and the Grizzlies, because I think honestly the Grizzlies probably deserve their own episode at some point, or like a good chunk of an episode.
I'm really interested in if we're going to touch on that.
If we're going to talk about one team, you'd rather talk about the Pistons?
I don't know. Yeah, because I don't give a shit about really the Rockets didn't really do anything like at all, and so cool. Like we can shit on them for 2 seconds if you want. Like great, but Detroit is doing.
I've done enough of that in this podcast. No, we can talk about the Pistons.
Detroit is doing like crazy.
The Pistons
stuff.
were the #1 seed last year, and they are going to very likely field a very different team this year.
It's wild. Like I don't the difference here. I've what the fuck are the Pistons doing? Like
I'm not entirely sure. Okay, so they're starting power forward from last year, Tobias Harris. He is a San Antonio Spur. Isaiah Stewart, their backup center, who was kind of like the heart of the team and has been there through their entire rebuilding
to Memphis for nothing.
Yes, they dumped him to Memphis for some second rounders. They also dumped Marcus Sasser for a second rounder to Dallas. They also have not re-signed Jaylen Brown, their third team All-NBA power forward from last year, meaning they are risking not having any of their big rotation from last year outside of Paul Reed, who, let's note quickly, they played more than they played the other 2 guys at like really important parts of the playoffs.
This feels like a big response to the playoffs.
This is clearly a response to the playoffs.
And to me, that's, I think, unlike some of these other situations where you really had 2 rounds of like, but to me, it's like Isaiah Stewart was kind of the problem, but Jaylen Brown was the problem.
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown's offense was the fucking problem. So, but why? I don't know, man. And I guess, like, you know, Duran was a more reliable offensive player. He was your sort of like your tent pole in the regular season, but he disappeared in the playoffs. And look, these are young guys, whatever. But to me, it's like Isaiah Stewart was your best rim defender. He also shot threes in the regular season a little bit from the corner, and Duran didn't do any of that. I don't know, man. Anyway, whatever. So there's that. What you didn't get to was that they signed Isaiah Joe. They signed Kevin Huerter.
They did not sign Isaiah Joe. They traded for Isaiah Joe from from the Thunder. They re-signed Kevin Huerter, who they traded for last summer at the last deadline.
And they signed John Collins.
And they signed John Collins from the Los Angeles Clippers.
Yeah.
And so their new big rotation is at least Collins and Paul Reed, and then we'll see if it's just if Duran gets brought back. There's also been a lot of rumors that he might be shipped off to Sacramento. He was also rumored before Kessler was traded to the Lakers. He was heavily connected to the Lakers. it just feels really weird for a team that just won. That was the first number one seed with that won 60 games. They won 60 games, dude. Like it's weird as shit for them to not have tried to run back that relatively young team.
Right.
Even after what were two bad playoff series, they should not have gone to 8 or excuse me to 7 with Orlando. They probably shouldn't have lost to Cleveland.
But these were also kind of bad matchups. These were like, but also those are going to be the matchups they're going to see. You know what I mean? It's like these are.
What's the good matchup for Detroit was really my question. Whenever I kept thinking about, I'm with you, but then like I remember being like, man, the Cavs are kind of a bad matchup. I was like, but the Knicks are a bad matchup. And honestly, like I guess like the Celtics were the only team they really wanted to play, and all we learned about the Celtics was that they didn't have enough talent in the playoffs, particularly whenever Tatum went down for the last game. Yeah. Yeah, man. I don't know. It's a weird decision-making process, and it makes me a little frustrated for Detroit fans who have to be like Charlotte fans right now thinking, what did I just see? And why does my front office disagree with me so much that I just saw the coolest thing that our team has seen in some time, and we just completely reshaped it for vibes.
Well, yeah, to me, the problem is not necessarily, hey, okay, we're going to respond to what happened in the playoffs, to the playoff failings. It's just how they responded. Like
tossing away Isaiah Stewart for free felt like
it's crazy.
I don't understand it at all.
It doesn't.
The reason why we wanted to talk about the Grizzlies here was just to be like, huh, isn't that crazy? They signed
they got Isaiah Stewart for
nothing.
Fucking yeah, but like that's the positive reason to talk about the Grizzlies. Otherwise, fuck them. But like. But the Isaiah Joe trade, awesome. The way that started, fucking great. Like he's a dead eye shooter. Like he's been on a championship team.
He's such a good fit here.
Yeah, I just think that's a perfect thing. But then it's like, how much did you play Herter last year?
They didn't play him at all. Duncan Robinson was starting, and they almost couldn't play Herter in the playoffs.
Right, like Herter hasn't really been good since he left Atlanta.
Yeah. He's been bad in Sacramento.
Like his shot hasn't been there.
No,
and that's the key tenet of
his athleticism has gotten worse as the years have gone on.
Right, and he hasn't developed his handle anymore. Like I just don't.
Yeah, man, I'm
so excited to. And then John Collins is just a bad player, and he's old. Like
I don't think he's both not old and has been in bad situations for years now. But I don't think this is a great situation for him.
Right. Right. I mean, look, if you were to say, okay, we're gonna let Jaylen, we don't want to be in the Jaylen Duren business. We're gonna some team is gonna give him too big of a deal. We're gonna do like Utah did and trade him for like a big package to Sacramento or whoever really wants to invest in him.
Yeah,
great, but keep Isaiah Stewart. And then if you got Isaiah Stewart next to John Collins.
And if you want to promote Paul Reed at that point, you at least still have the backup of what you call Isaiah Stewart. Like, I don't. Yeah. No, then it feels like they're jumping out of a plane without a fucking parachute right now.
Right. and it's like, and I guess you're banking on Asar, and Asar is great. Like,
no, that's clearly that's it. They're banking on Asar Thompson and saying, we know we're going to have this non-shooter on the floor all the time. We think he's the reason why our defense was actually so special all the time, which I do agree with them on. Like, I do think Asar Thompson is probably like the second or third best defender in the league and like just the most effective guy who you could ever have on the perimeter. But still useful to have bigs who can play defense in this league.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, you can disagree on Collins. I don't really like Collins. I think he's never.
I don't like Collins either. I just
developed a jump shot. Like,
I get in my math, the math in my head. I'm like, who would you put
he
John Collins around?
Perfect situation.
Asar Thompson's a good guy to put John Thompson or to put what you call it, John Collins around. And I just think it's a weird lineup that they're going to put out this year.
I guess, but I just feel like we keep saying this about John Collins. Like we keep being like, oh, the Clippers, it'll be a great situation for him. Oh, like we keep saying like, hey, this next spot that he's going to be in.
Okay, but the Clippers were a bad situation for fucking everybody, dude. Like they started off the year nightmarishly. Everybody had like some nightmare year. He was. He and Bradley Beal and Chris Paul and
Yeah. I don't know, man. And look, yeah, maybe it works out. It just feels like it's right. Like they're almost just swinging way too far the other way. And it's like, yeah, okay, you really did need help. Cade looked like he was fucking by himself.
I don't feel like they did anything that made them like get them this big improvement. Like I thought they were going to take risks, and I was like, okay, but they'll get Norm Powell or they'll get some like big splash where I'm like, okay, but they're really investing in the offense this year. It's like I don't think y'all just gave guys away and didn't invest in the offense. Y'all got Isaiah Joe.
Well, because you got shooters, but you still didn't get another ball handler,
another creator, which was what you were like desperate for.
Because you had shooters like Tobias Harris and Duncan Robinson were there last year, but it's like
trade for Schroeder again, like they had 2 years ago.
Yeah, I just don't. It's a head scratching. Yeah, it's head scratching.
All right, we've been yapping forever. We got more. The offseason is going to keep on happening, and we're going to have more to talk about. We needed to talk about. There's just so much. I hope that we gave any clarity or yelled at each other in a fun way. What you call it? This has been The Way of All. I'm Jacob Mustafa.
And I'm Eric Todd. Thank you.